Anyway, I've been talking for a while. We got over 1,000 people in the space now, so I'm going to try to bring some people up who want to ask some questions or make some comments, and I'll stay with you guys, till the markets close, and maybe a little bit later than that, and then I got to be back with my kids. But if I got a couple of people up there speaking, so anybody, if you just want to unmute yourself, you can say something.
Yeah. Hello, Peter.
Hey, Peter.
Yeah.
Hey, Doug Chico, former Navy officer here. I followed you for many years. Austrian economic guy myself. Happy to talk with you. Hey, sir, I just want to ask you a quick question. Do you think they're going to try and back the Treasury on the long end with gold? I mean, it's kind of I don't want to call it a scam, but there's been a lot of chatter about them trying to stabilize the Treasury market with gold. What do you think about that?
Well, ultimately, gold is going to be all we've got to bring stability to the markets. I just don't know that they have a plan to do that now, that they even realize that they're going to need to do something like that. But I think ultimately, our gold reserves are going to be very important in bringing stability back to the dollar. But I think that we're going to go through a massive economic downturn with, huge inflation before that happens.
Yes, hello.
Understand.
Yeah.
Hi, Peter. Am I audible? Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Great. It's great to talk to you. I just had a question about some of these things that you'd said about the Federal Reserve and how Trump is going to put a yes man in there, and he's definitely going to get the easy and
well, he's already promised that. I mean, he's come right out and stated that. So it's not like we have to guess. He said, I'm going to put somebody as chairman of the Fed who wants lower interest rates. That's the criteria.
Sure.
Yeah.
My question about that, though, is do you see some possibilities of hindrance toward that? Because I'd heard from Danielle DiMartino Booth that technically the FOMC could decide to rebel against Trump and put somebody else up as the chairman or the person at the podium. And also, when I look at the makeup of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, I can only count 3 doves right now, which are Waller, Bowman, and Mirren. And it's possible that the Supreme Court doesn't kick Lisa Cook off of the board, so she stays. And it's also possible that Jerome Powell stays on as a governor. So now we got 4 hawks against the 3 doves on the board.
I look, the criteria for a hawk, none of those guys are hawks. The hawk is extinct at the Federal Reserve, right? If there were any hawks, they'd be raising interest rates. They're all doves. Now you're going to talk about, super doves versus just regular doves or something like that. But, I don't think there's any, real, guys that are hard money, anti-inflation, sound dollar. Uh, you know, they're all going to cave, right? All these guys are going to look at the financial markets, and they're going to look at the budget deficits, and they're going to do what is politically expedient. I don't care what kind of noise any of these guys makes. They're all going to go down the path of the least political resistance. Nobody is going to, no one's going to go out on a limb. There are no Paul Volckers, right, anymore at the Fed, and
Okay.
that's by design, right? All these guys that are there were appointed, right, by government. So the
Right.
government they don't put guys like me on the Fed for a reason.
So you think he will get the easy monetary policy he wants no matter what? You don't see anything that could hinder that?
Yeah, no, he will get it. The question is, how long will he keep it? Because look, at some point, right, when inflation is 10%, 15%, the way the CPI measures it, at some point they have to do something, right? They can't ignore it forever. So he will get the easy money, but yeah, at some point, the Fed is going to have to do something, because then it's like Armageddon. But the problem is they may wait so long. I don't even know, what they will be able to do. Again, they may have to do something with gold. They may have to just, back the currency with gold at some rate. But that is going to force massive austerity on the government, right? So the only way that they can stop this is going to be to force the government to cut spending. I mean, really cut spending, in the here and now. And I'm talking about Social Security, Medicare, not in the future, not saying, hey, people that turn 65 in 20 years. I'm talking about the government saying, if you are getting a Social Security check today, the check that you're going to get tomorrow is going to be smaller, a lot smaller. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for answering my question there. And I would certainly also appreciate hearing you talk more about what you think like Trump's monetary policy is going to look like. Is it QE? Is it buying at the long end of the Treasury curve? Is it more
Yeah.
interest rate
I
reductions? And
think
what
we're
the effects
already
are?
in QE. I think we're already back. I think what the Fed is denying it, but that's the first, the first thing they do is deny it, right? And once they start denying it, that that's what they're doing. So the minute they had to say this is not QE, you know damn well it's QE.
Sure, sure. But like what they're doing right now,
Yeah.
I mean, is it really enough to matter though?
Yeah.
Because like if they do it for as long as they say they're going to do it and just the
Yeah.
amount that they do, well, that only adds like 1% to
Mhm.
USM2. So you think it will be increased more
Oh,
and
of
will go on
course.
for longer?
Oh, it's the camel's nose under the tent, right? I mean, they just opened it up a little bit, but this is just the beginning. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's there. It's going to be bigger than all the other ones combined. No, the balance sheet is going to explode.
Okay.
This is what they're going to do. I mean, it doesn't. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to know it. I mean, that's all they can do. All right.
Long end of the Treasury curve too.
Yo, yeah, all the way out.
All right.
All
Thank you,
right.
Peter.
Bye bye.
Appreciate it.
All right, Doug, you're up. Hello. Yeah, you got. Doug.
Oh, Peter, I had asked my question about the Treasury market. We could go on.
Oh,
But
maybe I unmuted. Maybe I thought you already spoke. No, you did. I think I said.
no, no,
All
no.
right. Thanks a lot, Doug.
Yep.
All right. I got Moat. Hello.
Thank you, Peter, for having me. Speaking out of let's call it the birthplace of the central banking system. I will speak very softly and very gently about the accumulated interest cost, which you addressed. Thankfully enough, I'm impressed by addressing stagflation, which is sorry for my English. I'm not an English speaker from the beginning, but stagflation is like the
Well, what's your? Do you have a question or a quick point you want to make?
yeah. The quick point I have to make is that you are on the target speaking about stagflation and on the target of speaking about the Fed as a hoax, which it of course is. We can agree upon that. So where do we go from there to address the central banking system as such?
Yeah.
That's my
Well,
question.
I mean, I think central bankers, and not just in the United States, but all around the world, but especially in countries like the European Union or group, Japan, the UK. They've done tremendous damage over the last decade or two. They've enabled governments to do substantial damage because they've been the enablers of the deficit spending and the growth of government. And all of that is detrimental to the standard of living of the population. The key to economic prosperity is freedom. And freedom is freedom from government. It's the freedom to be left alone so that people can pursue uh, their own self-interest and maximize their well-being. But in so doing, they maximize the well-being of others in a free market system. In a free market, the way you accumulate personal wealth is by enriching the people that you do business with, your customers, and so that's what serves humanity is free market capitalism. And the bigger a government gets, the more difficult it is for capitalism to work, and the more you minimize the benefits of capitalism. And so the
I,
central bankers have been instrumental in allowing massive growth of government and government spending and debt. And we're going to be reaping the consequences of that. And I think this whole fiat system is falling apart right now. And the world is in the process of going back to real money. And that's what gold is. That's what silver is. That's what's going on right now. It's the
Yeah,
remonetization of the precious metals.
or whatever, backed by natural resources and so on. So we see. I'm not speaking out of personal interest here in any way, shape, or form, but we can see that the multipolar world is growing, where nations and people within
Yeah.
the nation is the blood and earth.
Yeah.
Uh,
All right.
and
I'm look, I got to let you go. Thanks for your call because I got a lot of people on the line and I want to move forward. Um, if anybody else wants to speak, if you just raise your hand, I'll know because I got a lot of people that are requesting, but a lot of times I bring people up and they don't realize it. So if you raise your hand, then I'll bring you up right away. And then because I got a lot of guys that are requesting to speak. I mean, I got dozens of you guys, but all right. So if no one's going to raise their hand, I'm just going to random. Oh, there's somebody. All right. All right. All right. I just enabled like 4 people. So somebody just uncup your. Good. Who's? Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Mr. Boyd talking. Hey, I don't know if you've seen that meme recently of like that guy in the club. He closes his eyes and he's listening to the song. Uh, anyway, so with the run in silver recently, for whatever reason, I find maybe to catch you at some Puerto Rican club dancing just the same way. But anyway, what I wanted to mention, what I wanted to mention is going into Q1 of 2026, do you see any sort of like substantial pullback? I know that we're running super hot right now. Silver's going up every single day. But what do you think? What do you think is going to happen really going forward?
Well, look, as I said earlier in the podcast, when you're talking about silver moving like $5.50 in one day, can it go down by $5 in one day? Sure, right? I mean, and if it does, it doesn't change anything, right? I'm not going to like get bearish on it if that were to happen. Um, but the fact that it is moving like this, yeah, I know that it's thin trading right now, and maybe that exaggerates it. But this is a catch-up move that is long overdue. Silver is still not expensive, priced in gold. And gold is the way to price silver, not U.S. dollars, because U.S. dollars, are just constantly losing value, so you can't really price it in dollars. Um,
Yeah.
but this is something that I've been expecting for years now, so it makes sense to me. So I don't think it's some kind of like market fluke. And I don't think that this is like 1980 when silver went to 50 and then, went into a, massive bear market for decades because that move to 50 really started at $1. So silver went from 1 to 50. So that was 50x. That was a big move. And of course, 50 in 1980 has a different connotation than 50 today, based on what you could buy with $50 versus what $50 buys today. But that also ended with, the Hunt brothers trying to corner the market and all kinds of stuff going on, and then you had interest rates go up to 20% and with Volcker, and you had the exchange cracking down on speculation. So none of that stuff is happening now. I mean, no, so we're nowhere near the top of the market like we were back then. And of course, in 1980, the U.S. was still on relatively sound fiscal footing. Our debt to GDP was about 30%, not 120%. We still had trade surpluses, not trillion-dollar deficits. We were still a creditor nation, not the world's biggest debtor. So we're a very different country than we were in 1980. And of course, silver did get back to 50 in 2011. Uh, but that was also a bigger move because silver went from under $5 to 50. So silver went up 10x and then it pulled
Mhm.
back. I would say that this move started more like at 30. And so we've only gone up, 2.5x. So if we were to
Yeah.
go up 10x from 30 to kind of mirror the rally we had from 2000 and 2001 to 2011, you're talking $300 silver. So I think $300 silver would be something similar to $50 silver in 2011, and I think we're going to get there. I don't know how many more years it's going to take for silver to be at 300, but I do think we're going to have $300 silver.
And another thing too, I don't know if you've ever heard of this theory, the puts crash window theory. Published a book about the unified cycle theory, claiming that based off the lunar phases, that there's heightened market risks, and basically based off what gold is doing, silver is doing right now, where Bitcoin's at, what the market's doing, the next window really is going to be from January all the way until March, which is going to be Q1, which is going to be a huge quarter, especially given the whole, controversy with the next Federal Reserve chairman and everything going on. I really believe that we're going to have some big event happening within the Q1 of 2026. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, look, I mean, big things could happen at any moment. I mean, we're on the cusp of, I think, a major, realignment of the world economic order. And,
Yeah.
and I think it's very ironic that you have a guy like Trump talking about how this is the new golden age in America, how we're the greatest, this is the best we've ever been, we're at the top of our game, right as we're about to completely collapse, right? So it's like, it's a misdirection where people are thinking, yes, this is America's time, when it really is the end of the time. The sun is setting on this, and we're on the verge of a collapse, and we're all talking about how great we are and how this is a boom. Yet we're missing all the signs that it's a bust.
And final question for you, because I'm in the transportation business. How do you think the next, let's say, 3 to 6 months looks like with this whole stagflation environment? Do you think that maybe there's going to be potentially a uptick in rates to kind of counteract the rise in prices of goods
No,
and
again,
oil?
I don't expect the Fed to hike rates. In fact, they've even said it that rate hikes are not
Sorry,
even.
I meant to say like the rate in terms of how much it costs to transport goods and
Oh
services
yeah, look,
in the trucking industry.
yeah, look, prices are going to go up throughout the U.S. economy. They're going to go up because of the inflation that the Fed has continued to create. They're going to go up because of the big deficits of the big beautiful bill. They're going to go up because of tariffs. There are all sorts of upward pressures that you're going to get on consumer prices, and consumers are already feeling it. They're going to feel it a lot worse when oil prices and other energy prices also start to kick up, which is going to happen. I think it's overdue, so maybe that'll happen next year as well, which again will not work well at the polls if we have a much higher gas prices come November of 2026. Um, but I don't expect the Fed to react to the inflation. I think the Fed is going to be reluctant to hike rates. In fact, they may continue to cut rates, and they'll claim that it's a one-off thing, that it's tariff related, that they're seeing through it, or if the economy is weakening, they will claim that the weakness in the economy will exert downward pressure on inflation, and so they don't have to, right? These guys, you got a lot of Phillips curvers there that don't really get inflation and where it comes from. But again, there's just going to be so much political pressure on the Fed, and Trump is going to be controlling it. Even if he loses Congress, he still has control of his lackey that he puts on the Fed.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
All
right,
right.
Peter. That's everything for me. Thank you.
Take care.
Yep.
Alien here, Peter. Thanks for taking my call again. Appreciate you. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all that stuff. I think someone may have said the last caller mentioned catalyst. Wouldn't a catalyst in 26 be the Supreme Court decisions, given constitutionality of the tariffs and Lisa Cook situation? Thanks, buddy. Love your stuff.
Yeah, I've mentioned that. So I think the Lisa Cook situation, what I've opined is that I think the Supreme Court might actually say or rule that the very concept of an independent Fed is unconstitutional, and that the Fed must be answerable to an elected body, and namely the president. And so I think that they may uphold Trump's right to fire her, even if they recognize that he fired her not because of that mortgage fraud, but he really wanted to fire her because he wanted to replace her with somebody more friendly to his politics. They may rule that's okay. They may rule that the whole idea that they can't be fired is wrong because there's nothing in the Constitution that creates a fourth branch of government. So an independent Fed, I mean, it's not there. Now, personally, I think the whole idea of the Fed itself is unconstitutional. I don't think they're going to go that far, but they might go far enough to say that what's unconstitutional is to have it completely independent. But any Fed to me is unconstitutional, especially one that's controlled by the government, because the government has no constitutional authority to print money. In fact, the Constitution specifically prohibits that from happening. We're on a gold standard constitutionally. That's what's money, gold and silver. And all the U.S. government can do is coin it, take the gold and silver and make coins out of it. That's all. That's all the federal government can do. But I think they may just come out and just get it half right or something. But I think that would be a bad ruling because it would destroy the pretense of Fed independence, and that's going to be very bad for the dollar, very good for gold. As far as the tariffs, I think there's a very good chance that they strike down the tariffs. They're obviously unconstitutional. I don't think it's a major, precedent changer for the court to uphold the fact that all revenue bills must originate in the House and that tariffs are designed to raise revenue and they need to be originated in the House of Representatives. They need to be passed by the Senate before they could be signed by the president. And that what the president did is completely unconstitutional. Now, I think that's actually going to do Trump a favor because it gets him out of jail on the tariffs because the tariffs are harmful. And he can pretend that that ruling is what causes the recession because he's out there saying that the economy is booming because of the tariffs and it's not booming and the tariffs are hurting, not helping. But given that script, if the Supreme Court gets rid of the tariffs and then we go into a recession, Trump can obviously say, you see, we had a great economy and the Supreme Court screwed it up, right? So it gives him kind of another scapegoat. But also, apparently, what I've heard is that even if these tariffs are declared unconstitutional, he can come up with some other bullshit way to put them right back. And now they're going to have to come back with a whole new court case, right? So who knows if they'll actually go away, even if the Supreme Court says they're unconstitutional. Who's up next? I got a couple of guys.
Hey, Peter, how you doing?
Is that Chris? Oh, that's
It's Aaron.
Okay, Aaron, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Silver's going parabolic. It's awesome to see and everything. And how do you feel about J.P. Morgan closing all their shorts and going long a couple weeks back? And look what's going on now.
Well, I didn't hear it. Is that what they did? Were they short silver and now they're long?
Yep, they're long silver. Yeah, from a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I don't think it's a coincidence that it's running America because usually Asia time it went up. I don't know if you've seen Mike Maloney's graph of the Asia time, and if you took out the London time and the American time, it would be like 600 ounces of silver. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
But,
well, look,
yeah,
I mean,
don't think it's
those guys are obviously they got some smart traders there, and so they were smart to cover their silver. I don't know how long they stayed short. What kind of loss they had, but they've obviously made a lot of it back, and maybe then some. If they've been long for these last $20 of upside, or $10.
Yeah, and silver's used so much more nowadays than back. You know what I mean? So. And one more thing, what about China stopping exports on silver January 1st? How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, look, that's just going to be more bullish. I just read or I heard about a new use for silver. Was it what company?
The solid state battery,
Yeah,
the one that goes 600 miles and 9-minute charge.
yeah, exactly. And they're going to need silver for that. So like we're constantly coming up with new ways to use precious metals because they have such unique properties that give them incredible value. In fact, even Trump, I think they declared silver a strategic metal. It is a strategic metal. It's very important and it's scarce. And
a critical mineral. They call it critical
mineral. Yeah. And it ain't easy to go open up a new silver mine. I mean, a lot of the silver is a byproduct of other metals, but it's, it's hard to find it.
Keith Newmeyer said that he can't find a good one.
Yeah, look, they haven't had any major discoveries of silver, just like they haven't had for gold. And nobody's been looking for silver. Silver's been so cheap for so long, nobody's been bothering to spend any money trying to find it. I mean, because the pricing, the prices have been all screwed up. Now that prices are finally starting to move, we'll start to look for silver again. But the problem is, it's going to take many, many years to find it, and then many, many years to get it out of the ground. So it's not like a quick mechanism where, high prices are the best cure for high prices. The prices go up, and the producers produce more of the good that has a high price, and that brings down the price. Well, you can't just do that with silver. It takes many, many years, maybe decade or more, for the market to respond. So the only way we're going to get more silver and more gold is if the people who are holding it as investments decide to sell it to the industries who need it. That's the thing. And, like it's going to take a lot to get my gold and silver. I ain't going to sell it, right? So the people who own it for monetary purposes, the central bankers, they're not going to sell theirs, right? They're not going to turn their gold over. They need it. The reason they need it is the dollar's done. They know that, right? It's obvious from our fiscal position. So gold is money. And, silver is money too. But, the central bankers aren't using it, but, the people do.
And my last thing, Peter, have you heard of the Gresham's Law?
Yeah.
That's what I think we're in right now.
Mhm.
And thank you for your time, man.
All right. Take care. Christopher?
Peter,
Hey,
how's it
how are
going,
you?
buddy? First of all, I want to compliment you on your black and white photo. Love
Which
that.
one?
Well, the one your profile pic.
Oh, on my profile.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
like
think
it.
I think my wife took that picture years
Yeah.
ago.
What I mean, I'm also I'm like the only other person, or you're the only other person I see with a black and white profile pic. So, like that. I am a private markets guy, and a lot of this is totally over my head. So a lot of time I'm trying to pick little bits here to learn. Mostly I focus on very early stage startups as an angel.
Uh-huh.
What I heard you say that really spooked me, though, is when I heard crisis that would be orders of magnitude worse than 2008 GFC. I lived through that. I lived through the 2000.com. That's pretty bad. So I would love to hear a little bit more into that. First of all, like what kind of timing are you thinking on that? What are best case, worst case scenarios of that? Like just more detail. Because when I hear like orders of magnitude worse than GFC, that is not a small. That's a big deal. And how much of that is hyperbole, or like you really think? Because that feels much more like Great Depression.
Yeah, no, it's not hyperbole. I mean, I actually think it because, first of all, if you think about what happened during the 2008 financial crisis, right? Yes, the stock market went down, but it didn't stay down, right? It came back up, right? So if all you had to do was hold and you got your money back, in fact, you made money, and the dollar went up. So consumer goods did not get more expensive, right? We didn't have a increase in the cost of living. Unemployment went up, but people got unemployment benefits. The government, people still got their welfare and their SNAP benefits and their Social Security checks. And even though housing prices went down, I mean, people weren't homeless. A lot of people didn't, if they lost their home, it was no big deal. I mean, they didn't have any equity in it, or they rented something, or they walked away from their mortgage because people didn't have recourse mortgages. I mean, a lot of people, bought their houses with no down payments, and by the time the house crashed, they had already extracted, hundreds of thousands in home equity loans, so they were big winners. The banks got bailed out, so I mean, nobody lost any money who had a bank account. So, it wasn't really that bad. What is going to happen with a dollar crisis and a sovereign debt crisis is a market decline that doesn't reverse, where people not only lose their jobs, but the cost of living goes way up. and banks fail and there are no bailouts. People lose money or there's massive inflation. And so they don't lose money, but their money doesn't buy very much. So I think like what the crisis I'm talking about is going to be where the shelves are empty, where you can't buy stuff because there's nothing there, and there's price controls, and there's you know I mean that's where we're headed. And you could say, will it be a depression? I think from in many practical perspectives, it will look like a depression. It'll look worse because in the Great Depression, prices came down by 30%, which was a relief for a lot of people. And if you had your money in the bank, I mean, most people didn't lose much during the Depression compared to what they're going to lose to inflation. I mean, the only wild card, I hear guys like Elon Musk, talking about how AI is going to just be so disruptive to productivity that we're just going to flood the world with intelligent robots, and we're going to have this unlimited supply of labor that's going to produce everything we need for basically nothing. If that can actually happen within the next few years, then maybe I'm wrong.
That's already starting, by the way.
Yeah, but but it's kind of a race. But obviously, like, if we didn't have these problems, right, then the AI would just be a pure benefit. It wouldn't just, and robots, it wouldn't just be to offset the negative. It would be a positive all by itself, right? But yeah, obviously, if we can just get all the stuff that we now import from China and everybody else, if we can have our own robots to just produce the stuff for us, for next to nothing, then I guess we could still have stuff on the shelves if the robots put it there. But again, I just don't see where the resources are going to come from to create all these robots. I just don't think we have, we don't have the capacity, even if we can think of it, we don't have the capacity to do it. I mean, not that quickly, not on that kind of a time scale, right? It's going to take longer to transform society, even if we have the technology to do it. It's just the capacity to do it. I know the idea is, well, they'll figure it out. The machines will figure it out on their own, right? The machines will build the machines that'll build the machine. We don't do anything. We just sit back and let it all happen, right? I don't know. But I'm just looking at the economics of what's going to happen to the exchange rates and the dollar, and I know that America has been living beyond its means for decades. And the only thing that's made that possible has been the reserve status of the dollar. And that's what's in jeopardy right now. And when that goes, the whole thing comes trashing down.
Okay, so just two other questions on that. One, if you said this, apologize, I missed it. What do you think the timing is of this, like, really going to shit? One, and two, I mean, I have my own opinions, but and everything affects private markets. But what do you think? How do you think this affects private markets from your perspective?
Well, look, the timing has always been, difficult because, I've been warning about this stuff. My last book, America's Coming Bankruptcy, How to Save, the Real Crash, America's Coming Bankruptcy, How to Save Yourself and Your Country, came out 12 years ago. So clearly, that was very premature. But everything in that book is true. Everything that I said was going to happen is going to happen. Just it's happening a lot later. Although I didn't put a date on it, my thinking at the time was that it would have been sooner than this. But so I can't tell you. I think that, the breakdown, in the bond market, and I think the bond market is breaking down, even though you're not seeing bonds crash, you're not seeing them rally. And the fact that they haven't been rallying with all the rate cuts and all this stuff is telling in and of itself. But now you've got the explosion of gold and silver, which I think are clear warning signs that we're getting closer. But I still can't say, is it 2026? Is it 2027? Is it 2028 when it really hits the fan? I mean, I don't know. But it's coming, And the same, when I was warning about the 2008 financial crisis, I was warning about it for years, and I didn't know when it was going to come. But then after the subprime thing blew up in '07, I was pretty sure that it was soon because that was a key thing that I had been predicting. And when it happened, I appreciated the significance. I knew it wasn't contained the way the Fed said it was, and other people were dismissive of it. So other people are dismissive of gold and silver surging like this, and I think it's significant, just like the subprime was significant. So it could start to happen very soon. What was the other part of your question?
It was around. Actually, before you get to the other part, I want to give a quick anecdote because you kind of referred to something that made me think of this. When you were talking about the lead up to the GFC, I was living in Scottsdale at the time. I was out there for about a decade at that moment, and I had bought a house just like literally a month after 9/11. So I bought it at a pretty depressed point in Scottsdale. But I remember leading up to the GFC, literally I would get people knocking on my door that were brokers offering to sell my house to something, like they had a buyer or whatever, for like 3x what I had paid for it just a couple years
Yeah, I
prior. And
remember.
I knew that was
Yeah,
just insane. And then I had like employees, and I didn't really have like, I try not to have a lot of people reporting to me, but I had a couple people who were reporting to me that were like not making a lot of money because I knew how much they were making, and they had like 5 home rentals, and I was trying to find like, how are you affording this? They're like, oh yeah, I get a mortgage with 0 down,
yeah.
and like
Look,
I was
I
like, holy
remember I
fuck.
spoke at a conference in like Phoenix, the Scottsdale area, um, back then. I don't know, maybe it was 2004 or something like that, or
Yeah, 4
2005.
to 7 was just heady
Yeah.
days. Crazy.
So there was a guy there that had a booth, and what they were doing is he was putting people together who had good credit with people who had bad credit and wanted to buy houses. And the people with good credit would co-sign the mortgage so that the people with bad credit could borrow the money. And what was in it for the people with the good credit was they were going to get a percentage of the appreciation, right, for co-signing the loan. And I was like, this is an accident waiting to happen. I was like, you're going to wipe the people with are going to end up losing all this money, right? And the guy said to me, what do you mean? How could they lose? And I said, well, the people with bad credit have bad credit for a reason. They're not going to be able to make the payments, and now your clients are going to be on the hook. And I said, well, yeah, well then they just they could sell the property. I said, yeah, but what if the property goes down? And he said, well, what do you mean? That's impossible. Property never goes down in Phoenix. It was like I said something that was completely outside the realm of possibility. Like there's no
Yeah.
way that the real estate can't go up.
It
And I
was
was
it
like,
was it was stupid. Yeah. It was just and like the people, like the mortgage brokers and stuff back then. I swear to God, there were 3 points in our country that almost took down the global economic system, the global financial system. It was Florida, uh, Nevada, and Arizona. Had like literally those 3 places were just so insane it almost took down the whole country. Okay, anyway, that was a side note, just because you said it brought me back. The other question, which you may have less insight, I'm just curious if you have a perspective on, if and when this mega crisis, as you're calling it, were to materialize, how do you think that would impact private markets? Would that be a boon for private markets, or would it be a disaster?
well, look, I think that the expensive stocks that had been, caught up in the boom, uh, the AI related or the tech stuff, or meme stocks or crypto, or just a lot of companies that trade on hype and momentum, but without a lot of current earnings and dividends. I think these stocks have a lot of downside risk, even in nominal terms. But I think good, solid companies, U.S. businesses, let's say like an Exxon Mobil or Chevron or ConocoPhillips, or those are oil ones. But companies like that, I think people will be fine. I think those stocks are going to go up. And there are other non-energy stocks too, businesses that will go up. Whether they'll go up as much as their foreign counterparts. I mean, personally, I think Americans will make a lot more money investing in quality dividend paying value stocks outside the United States than they'll make inside the United States. But I think that those stocks will still have much better returns than, let's say, bonds or cash. or stuff like that, because you need to be out of dollars. You need to be out of cash and bonds, treasuries, munis, corporate bonds, because inflation is going to kill you. And if you don't lose to inflation, you're going to lose to default. So one or the other, right? There's just, you're not going to get repaid in real money, or you're not going to get repaid in any money. So it's, to me, being a creditor is not where you want to be when the real risk is inflation. Um, anyway, I forget what else you asked me, but let me.
Yeah, it was just around private markets. I'll give you a quick story, and then I'll jump down so other people can jump in. But unfortunately, we missed by about a year a massive opportunity in talk about like private markets kind of stuff. We were creating an e-commerce roll up in 2008. And had we raised the capital that we needed to roll up small mom and pop SMB kind of long tail e-commerce retailers in 2007 versus the beginning of 2008, we would have absolutely cleaned up, because these mom and pops were growing like 50 to 100% year over year, but they were terrified because of the GFC and like, oh my God, what's going on? And so their multiples to acquire them like plummeted. The problem was we needed like a $20 million war chest. And so anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up is a little bit different. Like there's obviously different aspects to private markets. And I invest today at like first check, like angels. So that's a very different thing, and lots of variables there.
Yes.
But this is an interesting. If you look
All
at
right.
like Warren Buffett, who's got all this capital right now, like if this happens in the next year or two, they're going to be in an incredible
Yeah,
place to
there will
just
be
cherry pick.
a lot of bargains, but if Warren Buffett was smarter, I mean, he's a smart guy, but if he was going to be more savvy, he wouldn't be holding all that dry powder in dollars. He'd be holding it in gold. That's, but I think from a political perspective, I think that Buffett didn't want to send that signal. I think he's very cognizant of the microscope that he's under and the message that he would have sent of no confidence if he was holding gold. But I think it was a major mistake that he made and continues to make in holding just dollars, especially since he does have a global perspective. He has done acquisitions outside the United States, and other currencies will go a lot farther than the dollar. By the way, while we've been speaking, now silver is up more than $6. We're knocking on the door of $78. I just said yesterday on X, I said when silver got to 70, I said we're at 70. I said $80 is in play before the end of the year. People probably thought, no way. How are we going to get another $10 in a week? Yet here we are, $2 away from $80 silver. And I just posted that because silver just got to 70 last week, and it's already at 78.
Well, okay.
So,
Last
yeah,
comment. If Buffett really is playing 4D chess, I actually think you're right.
just went over
Obviously,
78, 78.02 now, $6.17.
yeah, like especially in private markets, there's signal when investors make actions, and if the world is watching what he's doing and he knows that, it behooves him not to panic the world, because he doesn't want to create that crash, and now he's going to hold cash when the crash happens and be able to like acquire all this stuff. Anyway, I'm gonna shut up and drop down. Thanks, Peter. Is
All right.
good conversation.
All right. Hold on 1 second. I just wanted to post $78 silver on on X. But who's next? I got a couple of
Hey, Peter, how are
speakers
you?
here. Good. How are you?
Doing well. Appreciate you letting me speak on here. Really quick, just one question really quickly. I know you
Yeah.
mentioned silver and gold, how it's going to take you a lot for any organization, the government, to get your silver and gold. What would it take for you to be like, all right, you know what? I'm going to sell here. I'm going to pivot into something else.
Well, I mean, obviously, look, I'm almost 63 years old. I mean, so it just depends on uh, what I need to buy. I mean, right now, I don't need anything that I can't buy with my current income. So basically, I buy things with my income, as opposed like when I bought. So I'm taking delivery of a boat that I built in Poland, and it's it's actually got delayed. I was supposed to spend half of my Christmas vacation on this boat. We were going to take it from Palm Beach, through the Bahamas, and then I was going to fly back to Puerto Rico from there and let the captain take the boat back to Puerto Rico, but it got delayed. But I remember when I bought this boat, and it took a year and a half to build it, and I was paying for it, and I was like, well, I could be buying more gold and silver stocks with this money, and of course, the boat ended up costing me double what I thought it was going to cost me because all the gold and silver stocks that I could have bought every time I had to pay for it as it was being built. As they hit certain milestones, I had to keep sending them money. But yeah, I mean, I could have bought more gold and silver stocks, but I already owned so many. And I remember at the time, I was like, I know they're going to go up, and I know I'm going to end up, this boat's going to cost me double or more what I pay for it. But at the end of the day, I wanted the boat. And I just wanted it for the enjoyment of having it and for the family to use it. And so I bought it rather than buying more gold or gold and silver stocks or stuff like that. And right now I still have enough income that I don't need to sell any of the gold and silver that I own. In fact, I have enough income that I don't spend it all, and I can buy more. But at some point, right? I mean, I can stop work. I don't know. I mean, at some point, I may want to consume more, and I may have to sell some gold or silver or sell some of my stocks to do it. I don't know. Maybe I'll never reach that point. Maybe the stocks will just pay enough income and dividends that I'll just be able to do that. But it just depends on where I am. Now, I suppose if I got to the point where I really thought my my stocks or gold was overpriced, might I sell it strategically? Yeah, I mean, I could. Funny, I thought about selling the properties I had in Puerto Rico because I bought these houses, a house and they went up like 7 8x from what I paid. Just crazy, crazy stuff. And I knew that they were overpriced. And I said, I should just sell these things and buy even more gold stocks, which would have been a phenomenal trade had I done that. But it would have disrupted my life a bit. I would have had to sell a house. I would have had to rent. And I was like, screw it. I got plenty of gold and silver stocks. I like the house I'm in. I don't feel like moving. So I made a decision more of a convenience and emotional rather than a financial decision. So it just depends on where you are in life, and what, like, people will say, hey, I tell people not to buy a house, and they'll say, but you own a house. I say, yeah, because I can afford to lose money on a house. That's why I own it. It's like, I don't care. But for some people, when they're making a financial decision, they tell me, how much they're putting into a house. I'm like, no, you'd be better off renting. You don't have the money to wait to buy a house, right? Because people start thinking that houses, are a way to get rich. They're not. They're a way to go broke. You buy houses when you can afford them. You don't. But at one point during the housing bubble, that's why people bought houses. They bought houses because they thought they would make money on them, even though they were just living in them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, thanks to you, Peter. I think I listened to you back in Jan Feb. Basically went all in on silver, gold, silver mining stocks. Had my first $1 million year. I'm 30 years old, so thank you so much for that, for helping me with that.
All right, great.
And then you help my family as well, so they're in a great spot because of you. So really appreciate you. So I mean, what I was gonna say was, I would say right now I'm very heavily up on these positions. I would say now it's just the time, when to cash out if it's putting in,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't think that we're anywhere near the end of this. Um, if you already have heavy positions, is this the time to add? Maybe not. Although even there, we haven't had a big enough move that I would think that there's going to be a meaningful correction. But I certainly wouldn't be thinking about selling, and selling hasn't even crossed my mind for the stuff that I own personally. Um, even though I recognize that stuff could come down, and even though personally I have no capital gains tax, so it's capital gains isn't even an issue for me because I live in Puerto Rico and I have zero capital gains. But for a lot of people where you do have capital gains, I mean, that the last thing you'd want to do is sell, pay the tax, and then buy back, because I don't believe that you'll get a pullback that will equal what you pay in taxes. So you have no way to come out ahead. But obviously, you could have an IRA, you can have a pension, you can have a tax deferred account where taxes aren't a consideration, and you could sell things and buy them back, and not have to write a check to the government. Um, but then you start to get into the timing of it and watching it. And I mean, some people could do that. I mean, you could be nimble and, you know, but a lot of people will end up just selling, and then, there'll be a bigger rally and they won't get back in, and they'll kind of, so for most people, I think, it's just, ride this trend. This is still early. This is a generational move that is in front of us. And like if you took a survey of your neighbors, you could probably knock on 100 doors and not find anybody that owns any of these stocks.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think
So
everyone's
when
sorry.
so we when somebody when somebody knocks on your door or something, when it's commonplace, when everybody, when owning gold stocks comes as ubiquitous in America as people who own crypto, right? Crypto right now is all over America, right? Everybody knows about it, has an opinion on it, owns it, doesn't own it, owns a little, right? Um, when we get to that position on gold and silver mining stocks, yeah, it probably will be a time to sell.
Yeah, I remember when crypto was back at $1,000, my buddy was like, "You should buy," and I'm like, "But this is nothing. Like, I don't know what this is. I don't understand it." Like, and even when I wrote up to 10,000, I didn't buy it, nor have I ever bought it. I've never believed in it, so I'm with you on that. I think it's complete bullshit. The whole crypto movement, and I think it's really only a matter of time before anyone holding Bitcoin is going to be in a bad spot. But and then, what are your thoughts on holding treasuries at all? Like, let's say you have a little dry powder, versus holding gold versus holding, let's say, just cash in a foreign currency, let's say Swiss francs. Would you rather hold treasuries paying 3.5% or just, cash in, Swiss francs, for example?
I'd rather have Swiss francs, and there are a lot of other currencies that I would own before I own dollars. And yeah, you definitely want to earn interest on those currencies, and you could do that. Um, but I only own treasuries because I own money markets. I don't go buy treasury bills directly, but I do have money markets that own treasuries, so I earn
Hmm.
interest. Um, but I do that just really more as a parking place, not so much for dry powder for investments. I don't keep much dry powder because I keep earning money because I'm still working, and so I still have to invest money, and so I invest my earnings.
Hmm.
But most of the cash that I keep is simply for my expenses. So I have a place so I can pay my bills, right? I can write checks on my money market account. And I have a lot of bills. I have a lot of overhead. I'm married, so I got a lot of spending there. But I got kids. I still support my older son who's out of college now. I got two younger kids. I support my mother. I have a lot of bills that I have to pay on a regular basis. Now I have a lot of bills associated with that boat, the captain, the steward, the dock. I mean, so things get expensive, right? So
Hmm.
I need cash
Hmm.
because the captain's salary is in dollars, right? I got to pay him every month. So I use it more just to pay my bills, but I know it's going to go down in value, but I'm going to spend it, so I don't really care. I have to keep replenishing it because I keep using up that money. I got to put more money in.
Hmm. Totally
Yeah.
makes sense. Totally makes sense. Well,
Yeah.
I really appreciate you, Peter. Thank you so much. I did read your book on, the coming crash, I think back in January. And then I started listening to
Yeah.
you via podcast. And then I was like, holy shit, this is huge. I had no idea. And the amount of people that have no idea is absurd. And, people think that people, all my friends, they all believe in the Bitcoin train. I've tried to get them into silver and gold. They don't believe me. They've made $0 this year. They're all. But anyways, thank you so much, Peter, for everything that you do and for allowing me to speak. Really appreciate it.
All right. Sure. My pleasure. Okay. Orlando, you're up next.
Hey, Peter, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I appreciate you bringing me on again. All right, so I have just two things. One is a question, one is a kind of a point. Read the books, Crash Proof, Real Crash, how economy grow and how they crash. Read those. So the first point I'm trying to make, I want to make is is that I don't believe that people are being educated enough about how things work in the economy and in markets. And the point, the example I want to give is, I when I was doing my MBA in finance, they have this thing called stock track, I believe it's called. And I would be in this class, and you can do swaptions, you can do Eurobonds, you can do whatever. You're trained how to use these things, and I can use them now, right? I didn't go to FINRA way. I didn't want to be a trader. I'm an entrepreneur, and so everyone they would say, okay, use these strategies and blah blah. And I would just go in there and buy gold, silver stock, anything related to precious metals, and I will always beat I was always in the 99 percentile, even though it's a short class, like probably just like.
Well, those must have been kind of recent class because gold and silver had some pretty bad years.
Yeah,
Like
it's more. It's last year. It's last year
oh
and the
yeah,
year before.
last year, sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I would buy those. So anyway, so that's the point. The first point I'm trying to make. The first point I'm trying to make is I'm an entrepreneur. I spend my business is very risky. I'm in tech, so it's very risky. It's up and down. There's different things, and so I want to. I when I buy asset, I buy safer assets. So that's the first thing. And I want to credit you on. I've always had precious metal. I had to sell them at one point so I can pay employees and all that. So it gets crazy. It got crazy just after 2020, 2021, 22. And this year, I was able to put some money together again and got back in. And I kid you not, just by going from your recommendations, I don't buy anything crazy. I just probably I am Gold is the only one that's kind of junior. I go with the big boys, and
Well,
the
I Am
post.
Gold's a pretty big company. It's not a real junior in that
Okay,
sense.
okay. So
Yeah.
I I had considered kind of because it's not as big as the Newmont and
Yeah,
Barrett.
I mean, I Am Gold is considerably smaller than Newmont and Barrick,
Right.
but it's still, when I think of juniors, I think of things a lot smaller than that. Yeah.
Okay, or like Thor and those guys. But anyway, um, since January, that just those three items, those three pieces in the portfolio is up to 128%.
Yeah,
And
I
it was
guess I would say I Am Gold is more like a mid tier, it's
right.
not like one of the biggest, but it's kind of good size.
All right. Okay. Sweet. So the next point I'm trying to make is given all that we are seeing, I work with AI a lot, right? We work on the stuff we employ in our products and so on. So I know that there's a use case. There is definitely a use case, and it
Oh, of
gets better
course.
and better every. I'm telling you, I I have to implore the guys that work with us. I have to tell them, guys, you need to get up to speed with this. You got to get on top of that. You got to build other skills because the skill that you are focusing on now with this programming, I'm telling you, this AI can do it better than you right now, and that one can do it better than you. And before you know, you don't have a job. You got to put on something else. But my point, you have to do more, right? Add more value. But my question is, what about what's going on with Nvidia and these deals that they're making? Because Michael Burry just came out and say he's not saying Nvidia is a Ponzi, it's a scam, but it's looking more like Enron than anything else. What do you think about that?
Right. I don't know if it's Enron, but it certainly reminds me of like Cisco Systems during the .com bubble.
That's right, Cisco Systems. You're right.
And
That's what he
and
said, Cisco.
and probably even more so. And I remember I was very critical of Cisco when it was the darling of everybody, and I think it may have been the first $1 trillion market cap or bill. I don't know what if it hit it that high or 500 billion or whatever it was, but it was generating all these earnings, but it was doing all kinds of vendor financing. And I was pointing this out that a lot of the companies that they were financing were going to go bankrupt and they were never going to get paid. And a lot of the, routers that they were selling, were never even going to get unboxed. And they were going to be on the secondary market. They were going to be competing with their own merchandise. So I was way ahead of knowing what was going to happen to Cisco before it happened, right? I mean, and so I think that the same thing is happening, maybe even bigger within the uh, AI space, and not just NVIDIA, but all these, hyperscalers and all these companies that are immediately getting rewarded for how much they're spending on AI, not how much they're making off of AI,
Yeah,
but how much they're
I think
spending on it.
OpenAI is looking to spend $1 trillion, and you're like, how are you gonna make that money back?
I mean, look, we don't even know, like, a lot of this investment may turn out to have been a waste because maybe I mean, we may not need as much data as they think. And they may come out with newer, better GPUs that make the ones that they just spent all this money on obsolete.
Exactly. And that brings me to this point, Peter. It seems like a global crossing moment to me where we get all this bandwidth under the ocean, all of this bandwidth, and we don't really need all of it. Eventually,
Yeah.
the cost of transferring 1 gigabyte across on the
Look,
ocean floor just turns out to be practically zero because it's just,
yeah.
you know.
Look, what tends to happen is people get overexcited, especially in an environment of cheap money, artificially low interest rates, lots of cheap money sloshing around. And I think it's easy to, you know, get everybody, crazed about something, and then it feeds on itself. And so I've seen this movie before several times. It always ends the same way. But yes, I appreciate the fact that AI has tremendous potential, just like I appreciated the fact that the internet had a lot of potential. And just like I'm sure I would have appreciated the potential of railroads and automobiles and telegraph or the wheel or all sorts of things that were invented a long time ago, right? You can see the potential, but you can still have an investment mania built around that thesis. You know, one of the things about like the bubble in crypto, right, in Bitcoin and altcoins and all that, is there you have a bubble built on nothing. So while I see the real life practicality of AI to improving the human condition, right? Making our lives better, making our lives easier, right? Well, I can see all of that for uh, AI. I don't see anything from crypto. I mean, just maybe minimal amounts
Yeah, and that's the
of.
thing. And I would agree with you there, Peter, because that's the thing about crypto. I remember in about 2004, 2005, when this thing was just kicking off, before the white paper was written, my buddy came to me and said, "Hey, you know that they're doing this new thing and you can start mining." And I'm like, "What is that?" We were making computers at the time. You know, back then you can actually make computers and make motherboards and so on. And I just like, I don't understand. I just left it. And then years later, Bitcoin and then all the other guys. And the main thing behind crypto is the blockchain. But how the blockchain is built, it doesn't benefit nobody really outside of cryptocurrency. It wasn't built for anything. So everyone, I even looked at it, other people looked at it. We could probably use it in law, we could use it with properties and so on. But outside of the distributed ledger situation with how it works, outside of that, it doesn't really work. Like, for example, you're trying to do T gold. It works for that because that's a perfect use case because of how it is. And then you're putting real stuff behind it. But when you try to put it in other businesses, I mean, other areas, it doesn't work because
Yeah,
the
and the
idea
whole
of
idea too
being
with T
open.
Gold is you can tokenize gold and put on the blockchain, but you don't even need a blockchain if you're going to tokenize gold. You don't. So it's like, it's one way to do it, but it's not the only way. The reason that blockchain is important with Bitcoin is because there's no custodian. There's no one person regulating it and keeping track of it. But the reason that it can work is because Bitcoin itself is nothing. So so the only reason that the Bitcoin blockchain can work is because Bitcoin itself has no value, right? So because if Bitcoin was actually a valuable thing, then it wouldn't work like that. You would like so it's but
There is, so again, there is a use case. There's some use cases, but they're limited. For example, there is a database structure because we make software, so there's a database structure. You know, Oracle and those guys, they have database. You have MongoDB, different things. There is a database structure called the cockroach database, and it's distributed. And the idea came from crypto,
Mhm,
but it is not ledger based. You see,
mhm.
so it spin off some ideas, but using the ledger itself seemed to only work in crypto.
Mhm.
It's a internet. That's a perfect use case. But anyway, that's all I got, Peter. I
Thanks a
really
lot,
appreciate
Orlando.
it, man. All right, talk to you later.
Take care. Is that
Hey,
Brant? You're next.
hey, hey, Peter, longtime listener. I've been listening to you since I was in college. I'm an owner of EPGFX and EPASX, so I'd like to say thank you for finally getting the time to speak to you.
Oh, thanks for being a client.
Yeah. Um, I guess I got a couple questions. The first one is, what would you advise someone, I guess like my parents or someone,
who has their money tied up in a 401k and they have, $600,000 in a 401k, but they have no exposure. Or I'm assuming the 401k that my parents have doesn't have any money, if any, or maybe has very little in the gold and silver
Yeah, well, it depends. I mean,
precious
do you
metal
know,
miners.
do they have any direction over how the money is invested, or does an employer do that for them?
I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to speak to them.
Yeah, so what you have to find out is to what extent do they control the investments. Now, normally, if they control it, the plan limits what their choices are. So you have to look through the choices to see if there's, let's say, a precious metals fund that's even among the choices
Hmm.
that they have. Now, if they don't have, let's say, like my funds or something similar, right? uh, you can always go to the employer and say, hey, I'm interested in adding exposure to precious metal stocks. We don't have anything. Can we put something in the 401k? Can you change it? And maybe they will, so you got to work that way. If they can't, what a lot of people end up doing is rolling over some of that money, if they can, into a self-directed IRA. And then once you move it into an IRA, which you can do without any tax consequences, then you have complete control over what you invest in. And then, yeah, you can invest in my funds, you can invest in whatever you want, individual stocks. But the first step is to take a look at what they got now and talk to the employer.
Sounds good.
If they don't have options that will work.
The next thing I have is the speaker earlier talking about the great financial crisis, and I've been listening to for many years, and I was 18 in 2008. So it really didn't affect me much because I didn't have any assets. Um, but but nowadays, you know, it could affect me and other people. I guess so. My question is if this financial crisis that you've been predicting occurs during Trump's term, um, the doomsday scenario that I see is that the Democrats come in and they say, "Oh, it's capitalism's fault. It's the free market's fault," despite there
Well, of
being
course,
thousands and thousands of pages of.
that's exactly what they're going to say. That is exactly why Trump is so dangerous as president now, because of his rhetoric, because he's so perceived to be so ultra conservative, ultra free market, ultra business and capitalism. And and he's also made the mistake of claiming how great everything is and taking credit for it personally, right? Like Trump has owns this economy, lock, stock, and barrel. It's his. He's made it what it is. And so when it collapses, right, there's nobody to blame but Trump. And the voters aren't going to buy, well, it's still Biden's fault from 3 years ago or 4 years ago, when you already said we have the greatest economy in the history of the world, we have the hottest economy in the world, we have a golden age. You've already said that. You can't take that back and say, well, it really never was as good as I said because it was all screwed up from Biden. So he owns it. It's like, he broke it, he owns it, right? He bought it. So if he's going to take down the Republican Party in a landslide, as bad as the Democrats are, as bad as they are, and as disjointed as they are, and all screwed up as they are, they're going to win. Just like I was sure that Trump was going to win this time, and I was sure that Trump was going to win the first time, and I was pretty sure he was going to lose the second time. I always think that the incumbent is going to lose because I'm always sure the economy is going to get worse, and it always does. And what's always the same is the party in power lies, and they tell everybody how great it is, right? And the numbers lie. The government numbers lie by design, and the financial community lies, right? They want everybody to think it's great, but the voters have to live in the real world. They know that their lives are getting worse, that they're working harder and they have less to show for it, that their savings are going down and their debt is going up, right? And so they constantly want to vote for the guy who's promising to change things and make things better. And so since I know that regardless of which party we elect, nothing really changes. we keep on growing government, we keep interest rates artificially low, we keep cranking out money. And so all of this is a negative. And so I know that things are going to keep getting worse, even though we are creating technology and innovating in ways that should make things better. But it doesn't, because it's offset by all the stuff the government does to make things worse.
I think that well, I guess I want to ask you this question is do you foresee any chance of you running for a president in the future? Because we need someone who can explain the economic theory to the voters in a way that you can. And I'm not even, and I forget about Trump. He's going to be gone after 2028, but I'm not even sure someone like as smart as JD Vance is, as much as I like JD Vance, I don't think he even understands it.
No, and again, I don't think JD Vance has much of a future, because I think that his political stock is going to collapse with the Trump administration. So when things get really bad under Trump, um, you know, it's going to tarnish JD Vance. Everybody thinks, well, he's the heir apparent. He is the heir apparent. He's the heir to a disaster. So that's going to be his problem. But as far as whether or not I would run for president myself, um, look, I ran for Senate once, so to say that I couldn't run, and if I was going to run for another office, that would probably be the one um, that I would run for. But I don't know. I mean, because I'm an honest person, and it's hard to win a campaign being honest and telling the truth. So the only way that I could possibly run would be in an environment of complete economic devastation, where things were so bad that the truth couldn't hurt, right? And where it was a real choice between, okay, we're going to go total commie, right? Capitalism is completely doesn't work. We need to just redo America, as a socialist country or something like that. And it was framed like that. And I guess I have a lot of credibility, because I didn't sign on to this bullshit under the Bush administration or the Trump administration. So I can defend capitalism and not be a hypocrite. And if things go the way I think they'll go, I may have an extra $1 billion that I could spend on the campaign if I thought I could win. Because obviously I'm going to have to fund it myself.
Well, but here's the thing. It's not the same thing as I think you ran. What was it in 2010 or
Yeah,
thereabouts? It's not the same thing. We have X now. We have Rumble. Like
yeah.
you've been on Rogan. Like you can get on all these major platforms. Like you don't need to go on CNBC or MSNBC or Fox News. Forget all of them. They're all losers. Nobody listens to them.
Yeah,
So
I know,
we can
but
circumvent the
even
entire mainstream.
right, but even if you took all the people who listen to me, that's not enough to outvote the people on Social Security and welfare and all that stuff. And because again, it's hard to win when there's an army of people who are voting for your opponent, because they've been bought and paid for. It's very difficult to do it. But I suppose if inflation has already wiped them out, and they already can't survive. I mean, look, Milei was elected president in Argentina, right? And so he is very similar to me as far as our views on government and economics and money and freedom and all that stuff. So if Argentina could elect Milei, can America elect somebody like me? It doesn't even have to be me, right? Can we elect Milei here, right? But I think in order for us to do that, things have to be a lot worse. We would never elect a guy like that or a guy like me now. Things are not nearly bad enough for that message to work. I mean, it would resonate with some people, but it wouldn't. It wouldn't with enough people. That's the problem. We got so many damn people voting.
Well, I understand that. Hey, we need to cut Social Security. We need to cut Medicare. But it's I remember back to the Ron Paul days. That's even though yes, that's something that we have to acknowledge, but that's not something that a candidate would have to lead with. Hey, my main campaign thing is to cut Social
Oh, yeah, no,
Security or cut
no.
Medicare.
Yes,
Right. So
that I
hey,
would
bring the
have to.
troops home. Let's focus on ourselves.
Yeah, but I have to talk about slashing government spending, and that's part of government spending that needs to be slashed. I don't know how I avoid that. But like my theory on how I would cut Social Security, I want to eliminate it completely for for most people. But I want to have a program to take care of the people who unfortunately depend on it and have nothing else. So, but we have to have a way of phasing it out, right? Just like, so I don't want to trap people in this Ponzi scheme anymore. But I recognize that there are people who, but for Social Security checks, they got nothing. So what do you do with those people? It's a difficult situation. But there are a lot of people. Look, I don't need Social Security, and there are a lot of people that don't need Social Security, and they could lose 100% of their benefits, and they'd be fine. And there are other people that if they lost their Social Security, they would have to start selling other assets. And so, who does that harm? It harms their children who are going to inherit less. Well, that's okay. You know, it's okay if people inherit less money because there are a lot of people that aren't going to inherit any money. And the thing is that I don't need to subsidize the inheritance of kids by taxing other kids. So, that we need to get out of this Ponzi scheme, this intergenerational Ponzi scheme that was started in the New Deal. That was a rotten deal, and we never should have done it. But now, so many people depend on Social Security that you can't take it away because they won't vote for you. But the problem is, Social Security is going to be worthless because the money's going to be worthless. Because at the rate we're going, that's what's going to happen. But look, we'll see what's going to happen. Um, because and a lot has to happen. But I mean, and I'd rather not have to do it. I'd rather somebody else do it that I could support. But
It's no, I understand. It just seems to me that every single presidential election, it's just so maddening because there's never a conversation about economics. It's always about like the dumbest stuff. And so
well,
if
again,
not even you, just if someone could just articulate basically, hey, there's too much government spending, we're too much money in debt, our dollars are becoming more, the inflation is this, and this is we're gonna fix it. Boom, boom, boom. You just have 3 bullet points. I think that could sell to the general public, and you don't have to lead with, yeah, we're gonna cut Social Security. Like obviously that needs to be accomplished, but that doesn't need to be the number one thing you say on every single campaign stop, I
well,
guess.
obviously, but it would be the number one thing my opponents would use against me. They would know that I want to do that. And look, like I remember when I ran against Linda McMahon, right, for Republicans in here for Senate for the and I never made decriminalizing drugs a campaign issue, not once, right? Even though I believed in it, right? I didn't want to run on legalizing marijuana, legalizing cocaine or heroin, all that stuff, right? Even though I believed that that is the best thing to do, not only because of my fact that I believe in freedom, but because I thought it would reduce drug addiction, reduce crime, reduce drug related deaths. I thought it would be a good solution all around to stop turning drugs, making it a criminal problem from a health problem. And I had a lot of, but I never once brought it up. But when we were at the convention to get nominations, one of the ways she derailed my getting enough votes was she started spreading all this information about how I want to legalize heroin and cocaine and all these kind of drugs, even though I never once talked about it. Because what they did is they just looked at something I said on a podcast on YouTube talking about it, and she chose to make that an issue because she knew in the Republican Party that would be bad for me, right? Because
I guess
again, a lot of the Republicans don't believe in the free market when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah, last thing I'll say, I guess the thing
Yeah.
to do is to wait and see what's happening in Thomas Massey's primary, because if Thomas Massey gets defeated, I think that's gonna be devastating to someone
Yeah, and
like us in the
he's
freedom
one of the
movement.
he's the only guy in the House I've given any money to recently. I mean, I've donated to his campaign a couple times. He's a good guy, you know, and the fact that Trump is critical of one of the only guys who actually believes in small government, right, and believes in the Constitution, shows you where Trump stands on these issues,
Yeah,
right?
so I
I
think it's
mean,
wait and see with him to see where the Republicans are going. Because, like I said, if he loses, then we have to reassess our strategies. That hey, maybe we can't work within the Republican Party because they're able to just buy $20 billion worth of ads in Kentucky and they can defeat somebody.
well, right now, and of course, Rand is in Kentucky too. But um, the right now the Republican Party is Trump because Trump has got a stranglehold on that party, and so it's really not even the Republican Party; it's the Trump Party, and that is the problem with it because it's no longer Trump likes to talk about rhinos. He's the rhino. He's exactly what a rhino is. He's a big government guy. He would be a Rockefeller Republican. He's not a Ronald Reagan guy. He's not a Barry Goldwater kind of guy. He's a Richard Nixon, Rockefeller, liberal Republican. That's what he is. And he and in many cases he's closer to a Democrat than what you would consider a Republican. Yet somehow he's got the perception that he's like this radical right-wing Republican when he's so far to the left. He's to the left of most Republicans. They don't even realize it. They just
Right.
think he's pro-business. He's pro some businesses. He's anti other businesses. He's pro the government micromanaging business. That's what he wants.
Right.
You know.
Well, I hope you. I hope you. I hope this is the last thing I'll say. I hope you can get back on Rogan soon and explain some of this.
Yeah,
And thanks for taking
it's
time to talk to me.
unfortunate, So I did do an interview with Tucker Carlson, so hopefully I can keep, he had me on. They haven't. I recorded it a couple weeks ago. He hasn't posted it yet.
Oh, good. Good.
But
Good.
I have lost. Rogan basically no longer. I've tried to get back on Rogan's show. I did his show 4 times, so I was doing it like every year. He would have me on, and then since the last time they haven't even responded to my outreach to, hey, I'm going to be in the area, you want to do a show, or hey, a lot of stuff is going on, it's time for another appearance. And they don't even get back to me. So I just, I guess he figured that 4 times was enough. So I don't know when I'm going to be on his show again. I got nothing against the guy. I think he's great and I would love to be on the show. But if that's not a road that's open to me anymore, I just gotta, go to some other ones.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Take care.
All
Thank you.
right. Take care.
Hey, Peter, how you doing?
Good. Who's up?
Peter, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, Peter, first off the top, I'd like to tell you thank you very much for everything. I've been listening to you for a very long time, and your integrity and your contrarian position, which is rooted in experience, is unbelievably valuable. A lot of the things you were saying from an investment perspective, I couldn't refute. So I jumped in with both feet maybe 15 years ago. It looks like I make a lot of money, but by the time I pay for my mortgage, my kids, wife things, life's expensive. However,
Yes. Tell me about it.
all of my toy money is in precious metals, in miners, the big ones. I tried to buy your fund, but I'm in Canada and my account
Yeah.
wouldn't allow
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. You can't do it in Canada. We are going to be coming out with an ETF soon. You will be able to buy this year.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. And I appreciate everything you do. My question is like this. I've been landlocked in the strategy for maybe 15 years because I can see how fruitful it is. You were so right in calling the strategy out, and I'm riding it to the max. My question is, when can I finally get a supercharger from ITL? When is the right time to start selling? Short of knocking on people's doors and waiting for grandmas to talk about gold, what technical criteria would
Look.
you even start thinking? Because I'm not rich, right?
Yeah. Look.
So,
I look. Silver today is up. Now $6.50. It's It's at almost $78.50. We're $1.50 away. It's up. It's almost up like $10 in 2 days because it was up almost this much. It was up a couple bucks on Friday. Yet these silver stocks, are up here. Endeavor Silver looks like it's closing now up 2.7%. It didn't even make a 52-week high yet. Didn't even make a 52-week high. It's lower than it was a couple of weeks ago. They announced the financing. They raised money to build out a silver mine, and but I didn't think it was a bad deal, and especially they have to raise the money. But it's ridiculous that the stock isn't at new highs with a $10-15 move in the price of silver. The stock has not made a new high. What is Hecla? Hecla's up under 2% on the day. Coeur d'Alene up 2.5%. Mag Silver pretty much. Let me see it. Well, that was like flat. I can't tell. Wheat and precious metals up 1.85%. Pan American Silver up 2.9%. These stocks should be up 20% today. I mean, so if they were doing stuff like that, maybe we could talk about, hey, maybe we could take something off the top. But these stocks are still they're cheaper. The precious
Yes.
metal stocks are so much cheaper now than they were 6 months ago that I can't even think about telling people to sell them because they got cheaper. Even though the price went up, the value went up more, right? The value of the business. Now, unless you believe that gold and silver prices are going to crash, which is
No.
what obviously people do, right? Wall Street expects gold and silver prices to crash. And so the expectation of a crash is built into the price. When I want to sell my stocks is when everybody assumes that there's never going to be a crash, when people are factoring in a huge rally, right? I want good things to be priced into the stock, not bad things. When bad things are priced in, they're cheap. There's no point in selling them if they're already priced for bad stuff to happen. I want to sell stuff when it's priced to perfection, when nothing can go wrong, when the sky is the limit, when people are throwing caution to the wind, right? And I know that's coming in the precious metal sector. It's coming. We're not even close to there yet, but it is coming. And hopefully, when it does come, I'm smart enough to recognize it. I mean, it's easy for me to talk about it now, but when gold is 20 or 30,000 and I've got billions of dollars, in these stocks, maybe my head will be all screwed up like some of these crypto people are right now. Maybe I'll have maybe somebody will have to play my own spaces to me and say, "Hey, Peter, remember when you said this 10 years ago, 15 years time, um but because it's hard to say how maybe I'll get caught up in the insanity like everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. So
But at least I'm going to be there to make that decision. At least I'm going to have these stocks, and I'll be able to make the decision not to sell them.
yes.
But I'm definitely not going to be buying them then.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I'm going to
100.
own all. I'll be.
So 150 million%. I agree with you. Well, it's not that I agree with you. I follow you, and you're absolutely correct on this front. Though we're definitely very early. The thing is, though, if we have $20,000 gold, we're also gonna have $600 eggs, right? So, is there a technical criteria where you're kind of looking at where do we get out of this strategy and start selling the
Yeah.
precious
Again,
assets that we could use for toy money because they aren't appreciating further? Because I really don't
look,
want
it
to.
has to do it. Look, it has to do with what's going to be happening at the time, and obviously, I can evaluate the situations when they're there. I
Yeah,
mean, like I'd like to think, I don't know, right? But let's say I was, my age during the 70s and not a kid, and I was smart enough to have bought a bunch of gold when it was $35 an ounce, $40 an ounce, gold stocks and stuff. Would I have been smart enough in 1980 when gold was 850 and gold stocks had gone up 50 or 100x? would I have been smart enough when interest rates were 20% and the Dow Jones was trading with a 7% dividend yield, at a single digit PE, would I have been smart enough to turn on a dime and cash out my gold and silver and stuff like that and bought the Dow Jones when it was, yeah, I mean, because that is something that I'd like to do. I'd like to be able to buy US stocks when they're cheap, but I also want to see a catalyst for, like, if we did all the right things, if we slashed government spending, if we allowed interest rates to go way up, if we had a massive recession with lots of unemployment and lots of bank failures and lots of people losing money, but I knew that this was constructive pain, that we were swallowing our medicine, and that there was a great economic boom coming at the other side, right? A lot of light at the end of the tunnel when we got through the mess and let capitalism work. I would love to invest in that environment when everything is cheap and other people can't see the valley at the other side of the mountain, right? But because I
Yeah.
know it's there, because I understand how capitalism works. I understand creative destruction. I understand, the cleansing process of a real recession, depression. And so if I see the right things happening, yes, I would love to be able to take advantage and buy when everybody else is is selling. When there's blood in the streets, right? That's the expression. Buy when there's blood in the streets, and the streets are going to be filled with blood. I know that in the U.S. It's going to be a horrible collapse when the air comes out of this bubble. But if we don't have the right policies in place, if in this environment we do blame capitalism and the solution is to get rid of it completely, to have the government take over the means of production, right? If we become a socialist country, like, by law, like that's what, no more capitalism. We can't have markets. We can't have wealthy people anymore. They caused this problem. It was all the rich people
Hey,
that did
Peter,
it.
you cut out there.
Yeah. But if we have something like that, well, obviously, then I'm not buying anything here. But although you may not even be allowed to buy anything. So I don't know. We have to just cross those bridges when we get to them. Hello? I don't know. I lost my guy. I'm Joel. You're up. Hello, Joel. Hello. I got Josh. Or no, is it
What's going on
Josh?
there?
Or hello?
Hey, it's Josh.
Hey, Josh.
How's it going?
Okay.
So, so I saw you post a little bit about oil, and I focused on oil and gas stocks. I owned a little bit of some calls on silver miners. It's never enough when they work, and I guess I'm curious about how you see the oil market playing out, and at what point you get particularly interested in oil producers.
Yeah. Look, I think oil is very cheap. I've thought that for a while. I've added to my personal positions in energy. And I don't know what's keeping oil prices down. I have a feeling that there's some kind of deal that Trump made with the Saudis. I think they've been keeping supplies up. Who knows what they got in return? Trump might have made some kind of deal to keep production up because I think he's trying to, kind of put everything on gas prices right now. But I do think that you're going to get a big rally in oil. I mean, it's $57 a barrel. It just, looking at all the other commodities and then looking at oil, either all the other commodities are going to come down or oil is going to go up. And, to me, the easiest way to resolve this divergence is for oil prices to rise. And so I think that's going to happen. So I think energy stocks are going to do well.
That makes sense. Have you looked at? I did a little bit of work on trying to track incremental oil demand from increased mining activity, and it looks like there was a considerable amount of incremental oil demand in the last cycle, in the last mining cycle, and maybe there ends up being more because grades are lower and so on. But I guess I was just curious if you had thought about sort of the fundamental connection beyond just sort of the money supply and inflation and stuff on oil prices.
Now, I mean, look, obviously there's supply and demand dynamic in place, but to me, with all the extra energy being consumed through the AI and through crypto mining and all that stuff that's going on, it doesn't make any sense to me that the demand isn't there. I mean, there's so much demand for power right now, that anything that is related to the production of power seems like it should be getting more expensive, you know? And but for now, I'm just going to enjoy the cheap oil. I spend a lot of money on jet fuel now. It's one of my big expenses, and so as expensive as it is to fly a jet, it's cheaper. It's not like it's cheap, but the fact that oil prices are where they are, it's really keeping my costs down. To the extent that they're gonna get really expensive. That's another reason I own these energy stocks, is to hedge my fuel costs, because I'm committed to buying all this fuel, because that's the only way I can use the jet is if I buy the fuel.
That's hilarious.
And
Great,
and
thank
the
you. I
fuel
appreciate it.
the fuel is a variable expense, right? I mean, I got that's whatever it is. It is it changes every month what the price of the jet fuel is.
Well, it's sort of funny
Another
that
thing,
the
another thing I'm
microcosm.
I'm blowing.
Okay.
It's another thing I'm blowing my kids' inheritance on is a private jet.
Well, you don't want to give them too much. You want them to be comfortable, but not spoiled.
Yeah,
The
yeah. The saying
microcosm.
is, give them enough to do something, but not enough to do nothing.
Yeah, exactly. The microcosm of what you described is, in India or various emerging markets where folks buy scooters or their first car or whatever, and there's an increased consumption of EVs, but there's still growing gasoline and diesel powered
Yeah,
vehicle
look,
consumption
they're
growth.
they're not going away, even though and those electric cars are getting more expensive to produce too. I mean, all the materials to make those batteries, which don't even last forever. They have a shelf life, and then you got to get new ones. But yeah, I mean, so all the costs of creating electric vehicles is going up. They're getting a lot more expensive to build now, right? All the
And we're still in the first cycle for them, right? So when you go to the replacement cycle for them, especially in emerging markets, I think it's going to be really interesting to see, especially with, like you said, the rising cost of electricity and sort of that whole power, the whole power system, because of AI, as well as just growth in consumption of energy and electricity. It'll be interesting to see if folks that bought their initial cheap electric vehicle, maybe they're more expensive, maybe not, but either way, it'll be interesting to see
Yeah,
in
and
that
in fact, the
replacement cycle.
reason I have a couple of electric cars in Puerto Rico, but the only reason they're economical is because of the tax advantages of the Puerto Rican government. So, like Puerto Rico, if I would have bought the same version of my car in gas, I would have paid like a 40% sales tax. But because I bought the electric version, I paid no sales tax, zero. So even though the electric version might have been 10 or 15 grand more expensive to buy, I saved like 50 grand in taxes. So it's a no-brainer, right? It's cheaper. But the government did that. It's not cheaper naturally, you know. It's cheaper because of the tax codes. I couldn't qualify too for the U.S. has an electric vehicle tax credit, which I could not qualify for because I placed my electric vehicles in service in Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico doesn't count as the United States for the EV tax credits. But those expired they expire at the end of this year, so you have like one more day, I guess, to buy a couple more days. But
Yeah,
that'll make
there's
that'll make
huge
the electric
Trump.
cars make the electric cars more expensive if you don't get a tax credit for buying one.
Yeah, for sure. And Trump just put out some really big, as a part of that big beautiful bill, they put out some big new vehicle purchase credits that don't require electric vehicles. So it'll be interesting to see
Yeah,
what
well, yeah, they're
happens to the
trying to
vehicles.
subsidize. He's also trying to give you a tax deduction, like you could deduct the interest on your auto loan if you buy a U.S. produced or some. But all that is Keynesian fiscal stimulus that is inflationary. None of that is good economic policy. No, almost nothing that Trump is advocating is good policy. The only good policy is deregulation. To the extent that he's truly deregulating in any sense, then that's a positive. But most of what he's doing and publicly advocating is harmful to the economy. And they're not wedded in Republican philosophy to the extent that Republican philosophy has to do with less government and more free markets. The stuff that Trump wants to do is not Republican at all.
Right. Well,
All right.
regardless of if it's Republican or Democrat, it still is probably going to be more cars on the road, which means more gasoline demand. So should be
Yeah.
interesting.
Mhm. Okay. Yeah.
And anyway, thanks for having me up.
All right. Who is up next? I think I got Gergo. Garot, you're up. Well, either Garot or Grant Cardone. I noticed I just brought him up.
Peter, hey Peter, what plane did you buy?
Oh, is this Grant?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have my own plane. I have a fraction of a plane. So I
Okay.
actually have two shares right now. I have a fraction of a longitude at NetJets, citation longitude, and then I've got a share that I just purchased in a Praetor 600 with FlexJet. So
Oh,
I've got
cool.
those two. My NetJet contract is going to be up in May, so they're overlapping, and so I
Yeah.
decided to go with the FlexJet going forward and drop the NetJet. So, but right now I'm overlapping, so I'm using both.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can't justify getting my own plane. I don't fly nearly enough to make that economical.
Well, that's not how you justify it.
Well, I don't know. Well, I guess it's just wouldn't you have to fly a lot to justify it if it just sat there?
No, no, you just have to love yourself enough to do it.
Oh. Well, I did that with the boat. So,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
I still bought into the
Yeah, you can
plane.
only do that so many times.
Yeah,
You can only love yourself so much.
I still bought into it. I just own a piece of it. I just don't own the whole thing. But the thing about it though is I can't use the tax credit. I can't depreciate it or anything because I'm living in Puerto Rico.
Got it. Got it.
But anyway, what's on your mind?
Oh, not much. No, I just wanted to ask about the plane. I heard you talk. I didn't know you own a bird. So there
Yeah,
you
well,
answered it.
I started flying late in life. I didn't start until COVID. And so during COVID is when I started chartering. And then I got into the net jets. And so then once my wife started flying around, she was like, okay, this is how we're doing it. So it's like, but it is, to me, it's like a tax that I pay to avoid the TSA. I just, just the whole airport experience had been made so, problematic by government, that it just became that I didn't even want to go places because I didn't want to go to airports. I didn't want to deal with it. And so the the FlexJet NetJet thing makes it a lot better, you know, because I don't have to deal with that crap. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here.
Yeah, yeah. So that was, that was it. But yeah, but from a purely economic, it's obviously not a wise financial move.
Yeah. Well, not everything is.
Yeah, I mean, if you're an executive for a business and like your time and you really need to move around a lot, I can even see it being justifiable. But I just use it purely for recreation. I don't use it for business really. I mean, yeah, I go to conferences, on it, but I don't. I mean, I could just as easily just take a commercial plane, but I mean, but for me, it's just a pure consumption lifestyle choice. Um. Anyway, I got if that's it, Grant. I got Gergo. Are you still there on hold? I'm bringing a couple of more people up who are requesting, but nobody's raising their hand. Hello? I got okay. That's I'm back. Your head. Go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
There you go. How are you, Peter?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So looking at this radical rise in the price of silver, what do you think is the biggest driving factor? Like, not, I know there's multiple factors here, but what do you think it is that we're watching in the last week and a half? What do you think is the biggest driving factor?
Well, some of it may just be light volume at the end of the year. People trying to reposition their portfolios, kind of year-end window dressing, uh, short squeeze. Maybe some of it has to do with new uses for silver in these batteries. I don't know, just a kind of a confluence of events that has been, and a lot of it is technical because silver had a big double top at 50, and I said this many times that once we broke through that, it was going to unleash a lot of buying because now there was no resistance, and so I think that's kind of what's happening. And and I think there probably were a lot of people that maybe expected $50 to hold. There were probably a lot of shorts, a lot of people that are now momentum trades getting into silver, unwinding long gold, short silver trades. Um, you know, uh, I mean,
So
this
so so
doesn't
where
surprise me because I was pretty much. I kind of almost kicked myself in the ass because I said, shit, why didn't I just lever up and buy a bunch of, silver futures or options on silver? Why didn't I make billions of extra dollars on this? Right? You would have thought. Like I was like so convinced it was coming, but I'm always cautious. Like I'm not like a big gambler. Like I don't, even if I feel really good about things for whatever reason. I don't go out on the risk curve and gamble on it. I was always like, look, I'm already well positioned. I got a lot of silver stocks. I got a lot of silver. I'll make plenty of money if it goes up. I don't need to lose money if I'm wrong. So, but I obviously, given what I thought was going to happen, obviously, and I could have made a lot more money than I did if I would have levered up. And I'm not even on margin. I don't even have any margin debt. So,
this shoulda, coulda, woulda, right?
yeah.
The how do you think J.P. Morgan is positioning themselves through this? Like, so how do you see this ending? I know obviously we can't project what the end's going to be, but how do you see this going in the short to midterm?
Um, you know, I just think that it's going to keep on moving until there's a crisis. I think that So for look, silver's gone up to almost $80, and nothing bad has happened, right? As far as anybody can tell.
Well, we're on
So
holiday. We're on holiday, Pete. We got to
but
wait for Monday.
yeah, but even Monday people are going to still be on holiday. Because they're not going to be on holiday until after New Year's, until like January 3rd, 4th, or whatever. But that's why I told people at the start of this space that during the space they should have bought some of these stocks, and they should buy on Monday or Tuesday, because people are not going to be back in work mode until after New Year's. But when they are, I think there's going to be a lot of money coming into gold and silver stocks. I think I would not be surprised to see like a 20% move up in the mining stocks in the first full trading week of January. You know, and I don't even know,
Wow.
that wouldn't even catch them up, to where they need to be.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. So I always think about the reason I brought up JP Morgan is I'm just wondering if those short positions that they've been taking over the years, how do you unwind that without doing balance sheet damage? Like how are they going to pull that off?
Mhm. Pull off what?
How do they get out of those short positions?
Well, I think a lot. I think a lot of them have been covered, right? Because obviously that's part of the buying. I think, but I don't know how much there's still out there. And the question is like, I don't know. Like I haven't looked at the calls. Are there $100 calls out there right now that people have been selling? I mean, I would imagine that, I mean, if there were $80 calls, I mean, probably people would have shorted the hell out of $80 calls thinking that they were safe. And these things could be in the money next week.
Right, right, because
So
right, you
they
got
might
nothing
have
but
to
blue. You
cover
got blue
those.
sky, right? There's nothing but blue sky out there right now.
I bet there were a bunch of $70 calls that were people were selling last week, maybe who were long silver, and they maybe they sold some calls because they were covered and they're okay. But there may have been some people that just maybe the big firms just sold these calls naked, thinking it was free money. Like, yeah, silver is not going to be at $70 in 1 week, and here it is. It's like,
Incredible. Hey, Peter,
but,
thank you very much. Thanks for answering my question, buddy.
all right, yeah. Look, the market seems like it's settled. Almost. I mean, no, we're almost up $7 now. So silver, I kid you not. So silver is $78.72. It's almost up $7 now on the day. It's up 10%. 10% in one day. I mean, this would be a big move for Bitcoin. 10%, right? Yet we're getting it in silver. We're getting the Bitcoinization of silver, which is again is fulfilling my prophecy that silver is the new Bitcoin that I made a year ago on X, which is exactly what's happening. You're not getting 10% up moves in Bitcoin, you're getting it in silver. And I remember earlier this year, the Bitcoin guys were making a big deal that the market cap of Bitcoin slightly exceeded the market cap of silver. What a great opportunity that was to dump your silver, to dump your Bitcoin and buy silver, right? Just at the point where the two had the same market cap. Think of all the things you could do with silver compared to the nothing that you could do with Bitcoin, right? What would you rather own? All the world's silver or all the world's Bitcoin? In fact, if you owned all the world's Bitcoin, you could do nothing with it. Right? If I owned all the world's silver, I could write my own ticket. Right? I'd be the richest man in the world if I owned all the world's silver, I suppose. Although all the world's silver doesn't even have the market cap anywhere close to Nvidia or Tesla or something. But believe me, if I owned all the world's silver, I could sell it for whatever I needed to sell for a hell of a lot of money because people would need my silver. That's for damn sure. All right, so I'm bringing up Boyzet, um, and also, oh no, you're already up there. Umesh, you can speak in back.
Hey, okay.
Yeah,
Shall I jump in, Peter?
yeah.
Hey, Peter. Everybody has said everything about you, so I'm not repeating that, but I owe you a part of my wealth. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing all the knowledge and everything that you've done. I wouldn't have been holding, precious metals, so to say, if it were not for you. So thank you.
All
Um,
right, but now silver's up $7.07. We're
I was just going to say, you need to change the title of the space because it's not $5 surge, it's $7 surge now. And
Yeah,
by
well,
the
that's
time I guess you
$2.
finish, it might be even $10.
Yeah, it surged $2 since I composed the title.
Indeed, indeed. And it's not just like as you compared with Bitcoin, it's also like you can say whole precious metal crypto space because even palladium is up 13% and platinum is up 9.5% on the day. So all in all, like it's a crazy time that we are living in, it seems.
Yeah, let me
Um,
see. A platinum is up $201. That's 9%. And palladium is up 13%, $222.
indeed.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Now,
Peter,
is
my
anybody
question.
like looking at this and saying, now, why is this happening? And should I be concerned that there's anything possibly negative about this, right? That that these metals are not rising because inflation is going away. because inflation is going down to 2%. That's not why they're rising. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like it's a perfect segue to my question, actually, Peter. You have been talking about sovereign debt crisis for number of years and pointing to that, and I like it's very easy to relate now that it's contributing to what we are seeing right now. But I'm based in the UK. I'm very close to AI industry. I've been in machine learning and AI for almost 15 years, and I'm also part of the AI advisory board to the UK government. And I'm seeing few things happening on the government side as well. So my question to you more comes into wealth preservation, specifically when we are reaching a stage where even capital controls and things might become reality. And I'm really worried about that part, specifically holding physical sovereigns and Britannias on my side, as to the exit might become a very hard part. So I'm sure you have investors all around the world, and you might have an idea about the UK regime as well. So I wanted to get some kind of a take on your side. Like, what would you suggest? Like vaulted gold offshore somewhere in Switzerland, besides holding, obviously, your fund, which I'm holding currently.
Yeah, I've been
What
look,
other suggestions you have?
I've been recommending that people all around the world own gold and silver because I think inflation is a worldwide risk because all the world's central banks are creating it. Now, I believe that the risks are relative, that in some countries, the risk is greater than in other countries, but in all countries, the risk exists. And that's why gold is rising in all currencies. Now gold is up $7. Now silver broke 79. I'm looking at up $7.22, 79.07. So it is just rising like into the end of the day, into this weekend and a Friday. And I know Monday is going to be the first time a lot of these markets are open because Australia didn't trade last night. They were closed for Boxing Day, right? But and also like the UK, Canada didn't trade today. Canada was closed for Boxing Day. So there's going to be, I think, another one of these big. I mean, silver. Look, I mean, anything could happen, obviously, when you have a day like this, but I would not be surprised to see it up again on Monday. Maybe we'll get a reversal on Tuesday or something, but maybe we'll hit $90. Maybe we'll be up $10, $11. I mean, this is this is just momentum, and you don't see it all. If you looked at the gold and silver mining stocks today, if that's all you looked at, if you looked at the GDX, right, which was up 1.8%, and the GDXJ that was up 2.2%, you would have no idea that the metals were up like this. No idea. Because this is like a normal day. This is like a day that you would get when maybe gold's up 15, $20, silver's up 40 cents, 50 cents. That's when you would get a 2% move in the GDX or the GDXJ. I mean, these stocks,
In
these index they should be up 20% today, at least.
Uh, I think Monday we can see a lot of that happening, or probably even Sunday night when off market off hours trading starts. So that could be the possibility, because I've seen, specifically based in London, so we are a few hours ahead of you, if you're in the US, and we see that those kind of momentum building up in the night itself, which gives you a very good positioning because it will be daytime here in London in the morning.
I mean, I wonder if
So
some people were just like even like shorting the mining stocks as a hedge against their gold positions. Like they were buying gold and silver, the metal, and then shorting the miners as a hedge. I don't know. Maybe some people were doing that, just trying to figure out like why they didn't go up. But
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. So Peter, jumping on to another question I have, if you permit me. Specifically, my question goes to the exit strategy side. I think, I mean, I'm almost in alignment with you on most of the aspects, and we might be entering the period of high inflation stagnation very soon. And how, from your point of view, you view the exit strategy, if any,
Well,
in
again,
in
I'm not thinking about exiting. Like I can tell you, like I know, like it like pained me like a couple of months ago. The portfolio managers of our funds, we have some gold exposure, gold stocks in our dividend payer and value fund, and they were like, "Look, we need to sell some gold stocks because now we're like 35% gold stocks, and that's ridiculous because we're not a gold fund." And reluctantly, I agreed to lighten up on those stocks just so my non-gold funds didn't start to look like gold funds. So so that was part of a liquidation only because we rebalanced a little bit. We still have, like a 25% weighting or so in because but they're not supposed to be gold funds. They're supposed to be, diversified. So for that kind of situation, like if you have gold stocks, like for years I kind of had in my personal portfolios, I was 50% precious metals mining and then 50% everything else, right? And what I would do is when my portfolio was less than 50% because they went down, I would buy more, gold stocks. And when gold stocks were over, I wouldn't buy, I would buy other things. But now I've let the portfolio get way out of whack because the gold and silver stocks have gone up so fast in the second half of this year that I'm way, way, way beyond 50%. But I haven't sold. But the new money that I'm putting to work now is mainly not in gold and silver. I'm trying to, energy, emerging markets. I'm trying to bring up the rest of my portfolio. But if some people have an allocation in mind where, they want gold and silver stocks to be no more than a certain percent of a portfolio, then I could see paring it back to rebalance that to maintain the diversification that you want so you don't get overly concentrated in the sector. But for me personally, I don't mind being overly concentrated because I'm still very confident. But like obviously, look, if my portfolio gets to be 90% gold and silver mining stocks, I mean, I gotta like diversify. I can't because then if you get a 50% decline, when you're 90%, you get a really big drawdown. So at some point, I'll probably decide, you know, if we get a big enough move that I need to take some profits so I can be more diversified.
Okay, got it. And the last question I have is about the this underlying problem that some people are saying it is there, some people are saying it's not there. But let's take a hypothetical scenario and what happens when, let's say, COMEX and London LBMA eventually breaks and we see a physical-only price discovery. In that case, how do you see, in that hypothetical scenario, how do you see this entire thing playing out?
Well, I don't know. Look, now silver's now up 10.25%. It's up $7.36. It's 79. It's over 79.20 now. This is nuts. So silver is up more than platinum now. Platinum is 9.4, but it's still not as much as palladium at 13.3%. I remember when I told people on my podcast when you could get 3 ounces of platinum for 1 ounce of gold. And I did my podcast and I was like, you got to go now and you got to buy platinum. I said, call up, don't buy gold. I said, this is ridiculous. Platinum is so cheap. But you can still get 2 ounces of platinum for an ounce of gold, even though platinum is at an all-time record high. It's still less than, well, it's just about 2 to 1. It's 2,450 for platinum. So if you double that, you get 4,900. So it's not quite 2 to 1 anymore. But
Hey, Peter, how come CNBC won't have you on today?
well, they don't even know I know they know I exist. They just want to blot me out of their mind. But I probably haunt them. And it's going to be more and more because every time I know these guys, every time they see the price of gold go up, they think of me. They can't not think of me. I was the guy that was on their network pounding the table. I was the one, one of my favorite appearances. I still have it on the internet. I went on Squawk Box in 2004, 2005. And then I came on again a few months later, and I'm on there with um, uh, Haynes. Was his first name Mark Haynes, who passed away? I always liked Mark anyway. But I was on with Mark Haynes, and I said, Mark, the price of gold has gone up $50 since the last time I was in your studio, and it was like 400 and change. So it was like it came off the bottom. It was like or 500, whatever. And his response to me was, "Who cares? Why should I care about the price of gold? Care about the price of milk? Care about the price of oil? I don't care about gold. I don't buy gold. I couldn't care less." Right? That was his attitude. He was the anchor on a financial show, and he couldn't care less about the price of gold. And I said, "Well, you should care." And I said, "Eventually, you will care." Now, maybe he didn't live long enough to care. I don't know if he ever cared. But it was amazing to me. People that are the top on-air talent in financial news don't even understand the significance of the price of gold. Just because he didn't buy gold didn't mean it wasn't significant as to what was going on. And back then, gold was foretelling the 2008 financial crisis. Right, gold was moving up, and it was a sign of a problem. It was a sign of easy money, excessive money, and that's what inflated the housing bubble. Well, gold's doing it again, and it's another sign. And the same idiots that are on CNBC that were ignoring it back then, but they all know me. In fact, I know when Steve Leisman was saying, "I can't think of a single person who was pounding the table on gold," you damn well he knew about me. He just said, well, in his mind, he was saying, well, I can think of Peter Schiff, but I'm not allowed to mention his name on CNBC. I'm like,
Peter,
I'm
I
like, I'm
assure
like
you,
one of
I
those.
assure
My
you,
name is like one of those words that you can't say in radio. One of the curse words.
Peter, I assure you one thing that no matter how they take your name or not take your name, I'm sure they are they are watching your podcast and they are buying their stuff in the background. They may not they may not be talking about it, or at least the cameraman definitely is rich because of you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Boss said you're up.
Boycell. Hey,
Boycell, yeah.
happy Friday. I'm Adrian Boycell. I wanted to see, this has been a really interesting conversation. And as somebody that grew up as a millennial with a totally different lens of perspective, I'm curious if you're open to kind of hearing a different perspective with a question at the end of it. And it would be a brief kind of perspective here.
All right, go ahead.
So I have been in the traditional finance stocks. I just got hosed on Luminar, researching after reading lots of books about AI and technology. And as a young millennial, I'm a workhorse, man. I was inspired by people like Grant Cardone, which is funny, at a very young age. And I work 12, 14, 16 hours a day as a dad. And it is, even with the amount of money that I make, which is great money in California, it's still a hard struggle to make it. And with that perspective, I saw the change in sentiment with the younger generation below me and the internet capital markets. And so my question to you is, you talk about gold and silver, but if you had all the gold and silver in the world, what would that, like, you'd have more power than having all the Bitcoin in the world. But if you really understand crypto, it's really not about having all the Bitcoin. It's about internet capital markets and having all the attention and influence. Look at somebody like Grant. I mean, and why he came up and asked you about the plane. It's a status thing, it's a power thing, it's an influence thing. And when you have that level of influence with crypto and you have that kind of, I mean, look at the Winklevosses, and there's so many different people that you can point to that have massive amounts of crypto. People that I have in my own circle that are tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in crypto, they have gained a lot of leverage. And so for me, what I've learned about money, and I'm not an economist, I don't have the receipts that you do, but what I've learned about money is it's about money moving fast. Like, money favors speed. And the more money you have, the more leverage you have. And it's just a tool. And so I don't see the hype that I'm seeing right now with silver and Bitcoin and gold as much as I see the incoming upside potential. I mean, what's the upside potential for gold? Does it go to 200, 300? But when you're talking about things like internet capital markets, when we're only at a $3 trillion market cap and we have the potential to go to what, 80, 90, $100 trillion market cap, which I believe in my heart of hearts is coming, and maybe that's where I'm wrong.
Well,
But what is your
what
perspective on that?
Well, look, when I talk about having all of the gold and silver are valuable and people need them, governments need them, and so if I owned it all, I have plenty of people who want to buy it from me. If I own all the Bitcoin is worthless basically because what
I
it's not worth
understand that. Yeah,
anything if one person owns it all. So,
correct.
but even if it's distributed the way it is, I don't think it has any real value. But your point about people that that have gotten rich and have power, like the Winklevoss, yes, there were a group of people that got involved in Bitcoin. Not when I first learned about it. I don't think any of those guys were in back then when it was a pennies or a dollar. But I think big money got into Bitcoin when it was a few $100s a token, 200, 300, 400. I think big money like the Winklevoss and other guys started to get in. And then once they got in it and they had big money in it, they spent big money promoting it, cultivating a market for it,
Attention.
spreading the story. And
Correct.
they did a great job of hyping it up and promoting it and getting people on board, right? And
That was just similar to how porn had got the internet off to its start.
and then they also did a great job of getting Wall Street, which was initially skeptical and rightly so. They got Wall Street in on it once it got high enough, and once they got enough, demand that Wall
There it is.
Street saw the money that they could make by having ETFs and stuff like that. So they did a great job of getting Wall Street in on the scam, and then they also saw a window of opportunity with Trump and other politicians. Hey, these guys need our money, and we have a lot of votes now. We can get the politicians on board, and so they got more and more, credibility in the Ponzi scheme, in the pyramid scheme, which is basically all it is. And I also know though that there are a lot of people
But
who don't
everything Ponzi's
who
at the end of the
there are a
day.
lot of people who don't know it's a pyramid, who don't know it's a Ponzi, who literally just are just they drank the Kool-Aid and they're drunk on it, and
Well,
they
as
and
they common sense isn't common either. So, I mean, it's
yeah.
not surprising to me. But the power of decentralization and giving the person, the small person, small business owner, small American born and raised in California, giving the power for me to be able to build a community of thousands of people with social media and create influence and be able to train people and rebuild my own
But what does that
education.
have to do with Bitcoin?
Build me like I've got over at one point I had like a $5 million market cap on my coin. I'm down to 1 million now, but I built
Oh,
that.
on your little you had a meme coin that you came up with?
It's a utility coin. So I've built a
Yeah.
community, I've built training and education and an AI tech. Like I built all this
Yeah,
stuff
well,
to help
don't
creators,
talk about
small
your
business
token.
owners like me.
I don't want to use this as a platform to get people
Not at
into.
all.
But I tell you, so many people approached me, with Peter Schiff coins. Even friends of mine wanted to launch coins, and people into crypto, and I don't want to do any of this shit, even
No.
though I could make money off of it. I know that it's wrong because I'm making money because other people are losing it. I mean, I want to make money helping people make money too.
Yeah, but I'm gonna make
That's
money
my
to
let me finish.
create.
That's my profession, right? If I'm an asset
Yeah.
manager or broker, I make money helping people make money. Now, they may end up losing money. I'm not perfect. I'm not infallible. I've put people into investments that didn't work out, and I was usually in the same investments right alongside of them. But my goal was to make them money. My goal is never to lose people money. Now, if I were to have started a meme coin, I would have known that the people who bought it would lose money and that I would make money because they were losing money. And I could not do that, right? That's not
Understandable.
me, right? I'm not going to deliberately encourage people to lose their money so I can make some myself. Now,
Yeah.
unfortunately, a lot of people who are in the crypto don't think that way. They think it's perfectly okay to make money for themselves, even if it's at the expense of other people losing it. To me, that's a fraud, that's a con. And in many cases, it should be illegal if you lie to people and deliberately deceive them, knowing that you're going to win and they're going to lose, right? And that's what all this crypto is. I mean, all these people, that got in early and who made all this money, the only reason they made money is because the people who got in late lost it. Now, a lot of the people who got in late don't even know they lost their money yet because they still have their Bitcoin and the price is still 87,000. They haven't tried to sell. But all that money is lost. You will never get it out. Yes, individually, if somebody is listening to this X right now, space, and I actually have more people. I wanted to stop talking at 3 hours, but maybe I'll keep going because I got more people.
You're having so much
I
fun,
got
I can tell. That's the thing.
hold on, let me finish. I got more people listening now. When I started, I had 1.2 thousand. Now there's 1.6, so it's going up. But the people who own, if you're listening to this, yes, one person could go and sell their Bitcoin right now. No problem. There's a market for that, right? You can get out. But there's going to be a point where a lot of people are going to want to get out at the same time, and they're not going to be able to do it because the bottom is going to drop out. Yes, most of the people are still delusional, right? The Kool-Aid hasn't worn off. They're still drunk on it, and they're hodling, right? And so you can sell. People can sell. But when enough people sober up and realize just don't know that it's been lost. But the people who made their money, they're spending your money right now. If you bought Bitcoin over the last couple of years, right? The people who got rich are spending your money. You gave them your money and they gave you their Bitcoin. So they're out buying private jets and yachts and
It's
mansions.
a half
And
truth, though.
and I know all these guys and I know what they're buying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's truth. I agree that there's truth in that, but what I feel like the aha moment that's missing from this conversation is the actual. That's why I was asking about internet capital markets. The fact that myself, builders, creators, content creators, the workforce, and the new economy that's emerging with people like myself and thousands of others that are creating technologies and Web3 and all the stuff that's being innovated and built in this space to help other people, right? People are making investments into those things, into utilities, right? And so that's the part that it's just it doesn't seem to be acknowledged. Is like whether it's traditional finance, stock market, whatever it is, a lot of people are buying the tops and selling the dips. I mean, that's been happening. So I just don't understand fundamentally how, because this isn't a physical asset like gold or silver, that you see it. That's the part that I'm still disconnected on. There seems to be a missing element to that this is about people. This is about you, me, and everybody in this space right now. And
Yeah. Well,
that's like saying everybody's a scam on the planet.
What's
And it's like,
happening
how is that possible?
what's happening with gold and silver, this is a reflection of a reordering of the monetary system. What I am telling you we are seeing is the beginning of the end of the dollar and the US dollar's dominance as the world reserve currency,
I agree
which
with.
means
That's why they're buying the
right,
crypto.
which means this is the end of the American exceptionalism of Americans living this lifestyle that is disproportionate to our collective productivity. And I agree that there are people who have unfortunately recognized this, right? Understand this, and have decided to buy Bitcoin as their hedge, as their safe haven, as their way to profit from this. And it's unfortunate because they are going to lose all of their money because Bitcoin is not what they think it is. It is not a better version of gold. It is nothing.
It's the Model A of the car industry, as far as I'm concerned. It's an inferior technology. It has a lot of institutional money. It's very centralized. We don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. At least we don't.
Yeah.
The general public doesn't. And so there's a lot of mystery and
Yeah.
anonymity around that, which
Yeah.
I think is a problem. But at the same time, there's so many other technologies that are far superior to that are changing our financial situation
Well,
worldwide. It's not
maybe. But anyway, I got to let you go. I got a lot of other people
appreciate
that
you.
are
Thank you
up
so much.
here. So Cody, you're up.
Hey Peter, how you doing?
Okay.
So I just wanted to know where you think the gold-silver ratio might be headed based on where it's been historically and the fact that there's been a buy gold, sell silver trade that's been reversing recently.
Yeah, so let's see. I'll do a quick look right now at the gold and silver. The ratio right now is around, let me see, it's 45.50 gold divided by about 79 on silver. So it's about 57 to 1 right now. And my target has been about 50 to 1. And we're almost there. We were over 100 to 1. But, as far as the peak of the bull market, I would not be surprised to see something more like a 20 to 1 or maybe even less. But I think
Wow.
once we get to about 50 to 1, I think that's relatively, I think that's a decent ratio. I think that silver, from a monetary perspective, is not as important as it once was because of technology, blockchain, whatever, because you can tokenize gold or find ways to fractionalize it electronically, that you can engage in commerce with gold for small transactions, micro transactions. And before that, right, couple hundred years ago, when we were on, or even 100 years ago, when we were on a gold standard, we used gold, but we didn't use gold for all payments. We used silver for smaller payments. And then for even smaller payments, we used copper. We used nickel, right? A nickel was made of nickel. The penny was made of copper, right? We used those metals to affect smaller transactions, right? If a cup of coffee cost a nickel, right, you couldn't really pay with it for gold. It was too cheap. So you used nickel. But today, I could pay for coffee with gold. I could pay, for anything. So silver isn't as important, I think, as it was for the monetary purposes. So maybe we won't get to the 15 to 1 ratio or something like that, like we've been. But I think that there's room, and there's a lot of demand for silver. There could be speculative demand. Silver can get overpriced. Just like silver was very underpriced when it was 100 to 1, it can go overpriced. And at 20 to 1, it would be overpriced. But that doesn't mean it can't get there. You know, anything can go from being underpriced to being overpriced. It all depends on the market. But I at around 50 to 1, I mean, I think, there probably isn't going to be that much. There could be a pullback, but I would not buy silver at 50 to 1. I would keep buying silver and gold, I've usually had told people to have about 2/3 gold, 1/3 silver. Earlier this year, I started telling people to be at least half and half or even more silver than gold because silver became so cheap. But it's not that cheap anymore. It's caught up in many. It's kind of to gold.
Right, and platinum was 3 to 1 not that long ago, and now it's two
Yeah,
to one.
exactly. And
And
platinum is still a lot lower than gold. So platinum
well,
still. I mean, because for most of my life, platinum was more expensive than gold.
so I bought some platinum this morning. Zero Hedge had posted a link to the U.S. Mint, and
Uh-huh.
they're selling a coin for 23.45. They hadn't updated the price yet, so I bought some of those because to me that seemed like it was a good deal.
Oh, you were able to buy it for less than it was worth.
Yep, they hadn't updated it yet.
Yeah, well, that was their loss. I guess your
Right.
gain.
I had one more
Yeah, some
question.
people have told me they've made a lot of money buying coins like on eBay, like one or two at a time, because people will list a coin and they won't constantly update the price. And so if you're kind of scouring, eBay, you can find coins that are selling for less than, the value of the coin, right?
Well,
Not,
yeah, but this was the U.S. Mint.
I know that's
you know,
kind of crazy that the
so
U.S.
I don't know
Well,
if
that's
it's
it.
an
They're not
example
updating
of
it fast enough.
a 20 year, Yeah, I just had one more question. Your T Gold. I wanted to sign up for that, and it looks like
Yeah,
you there's
here's the thing about T Gold. So I don't want to talk about it on this space
okay,
because
gotcha.
I am in Connecticut right now, and
Hmm.
so based on my tax situation in Puerto Rico, I don't work when I'm in the United States. I'm on vacation now. I don't work,
Okay.
and so I don't want to
H-
promote anything that would be
How
considered
could
work. So what I'm
how could
doing,
I ask
I'm
you?
just educating people about in general about gold and silver. I don't want to speak about my particular businesses or products in a way that may look promotional because I don't want anyone to say, "Hey, Peter Schiff, you're in Connecticut and you're working." I ain't working. I am exercising my freedom of speech to discuss current events, the economy, gold and silver with my X following. I'm
And
not here as a salesman for any of my businesses.
okay, I
That's how I
understand.
handle my tax situation.
How could I ask you that?
You can
If
ask
not
me
on.
that. I will be back in Puerto Rico in a couple of weeks, and you can ask it the next time I'm doing an X when I'm
Okay.
actually in Puerto Rico.
Okay, I'll jump on then. All right. Thank you.
That's when I do my work. This is all fun and games. I'm just exercising my freedom of speech to talk about important issues.
Well, I hope you're having a good time.
Um, I just added a couple of more speakers, so you just gotta. Burry, is that you? Cody, who just spoke?
No, that was me. That was Cody. I'm
Hey,
leaving.
Okay, thanks a lot, Cody. All right,
hey, can you hear me?
yeah, is this Barry?
Yeah, this is Barry.
Oh, Barry.
Yeah,
Okay.
my question is on one of these stocks that you've previously mentioned called I Am Gold. And I just want to think about like how to value a mining company and like specifically looking at that one. So right now it's trading at like a $10.5 billion valuation. And then it has three producing mines and then one large asset. So like how do you look at each mine and say how much is that mine worth and then compute like a theoretical value to where it's trading in the market? How do you go through that process?
Well, okay, I don't really go through it myself because I have portfolio managers that kind of work for me. But I mean, on my own, like if you're just going to look at stocks, right? I look at the PE of the stock and what it's trading at, and I try to look at the reserves to know like how much gold and silver do they know they have, and so what am I paying for those reserves? Like how much is that gold costing me and that silver costing me? Because when you are a stockholder of a mining company, what is the main asset of that company? It's the mines. It's the gold and silver that is in the ground that they get to pull out of the ground and sell it. And so I want to know how much do I got? How many ounces do I have of the metals, proven reserves, and then also an estimate of what it would cost to extract it. So you have an idea. I mean, because obviously if it costs me $10,000 an ounce to get certain gold out of the ground, that gold doesn't have much value today because the price is lower. So I'm not going to dig it up to lose money, but I like to know about it because in the future it may make sense to mine that gold. When gold is $20,000 an ounce, if it costs $13,000 an ounce to get out of the ground, now I got something. I got a valuable asset down there that I can make money on. But I like to look at all those things and decide if I think it's a good value, right, for the price. But I mean, right now, pretty much all the major gold companies that you could think of, I think are undervalued, right? The key is the ones that are the most undervalued are the smaller ones. Now, some of the smaller ones are also the most overvalued, right? So you just got to be smart enough to know, to know the difference, right? And that's where I'm not smart enough to know. That's why I have other people that do nothing but look at these things. It's easy to look at the big companies, right, and figure out if they're cheap or expensive. But the smaller ones, the real juniors, that one you have to know a lot more because there's a lot more unknowns there.
And,
All right.
and so when I'm looking at a company like Agnico Eagle, who's producing like a ton of free cash flow,
Yeah.
and they are looking at acquiring a company, like let's say they want to acquire some junior,
Uh-huh.
at what price are they computing like the gold value? Are they saying gold's 4,000? Are they
I don't
saying
know.
it's
I don't know what they're
3,000? Like
using,
what is their internal metric?
but I look at Agnico Eagle relative to its own historical values and relative to its history as a company, relative to the price of gold and Agnico Eagle, which normally trades at a premium because it's a top tier, probably the best gold mining company, relative to where it's been historically, it's cheap. So I still think, I think it's a good buy. I own a lot of that one myself. But anyway,
And then my last question is Equinox Gold sold off their Brazilian assets and it only fetched like $1 billion. And I think it got like some people by surprise because it produced like 200,000 ounces a year. So you're only selling it for like $1 billion. So I think people are questioning like how much the mines are actually worth. And I know that's not like an ideal jurisdiction, but does that surprise you that like a mine that had, I don't know, 7 or 8 years left and producing 200,000 ounces a year only sold for like $1 billion?
I don't know all the details of the transaction. So I know we own some Equinox, but again, it's not. I don't know the details, so it's not. I can't really comment on it. But it sounds like you did a lot of homework on it.
Okay.
All
Thank
right,
you, Peter. Have a
all
good
right,
one.
Barry. Take care. Who's up next?
Hey, what's up, Peter? Can you hear me?
Is this Sam?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been waiting for this moment for probably 20 years. This is crazy, bro.
Which moment? I mean, gold, silver going up like this, or
Well,
talking
that
to
no,
me on
also
X?
just speaking to you. So, I lose my first job 2008. I start researching gold and silver. I see you and you call the housing crisis on Fox News. You say they're all C's and B's. I believe you. The housing crisis happens. I lose my job. I go to your website, Matt Maleo, if that rings a bell. I start buying gold from him. Gold
Yeah,
and
he
silver.
used to work for me, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. And I bought my probably 15 grand. Eventually, I have 40 grand of it. It's in my apartment in New York City. It's like 2010, 12. Now it's 2016, and I say, well, I ship it into the storage facility, but I don't really trust it, right? Because I'm like, in Armageddon, am I really going to get it out the vault? So I never trusted storing my gold. And then I had it in an apartment in Queens, which I couldn't even have a firearm. So I was like, and I found Bitcoin, right? And I started buying Bitcoin around $1,000. It changed my life, and you led me to Bitcoin. So like I always would hear you say like gold, 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 and I'm like, this man made me a Bitcoin millionaire, and I think you made many, many, many people Bitcoin
Yeah, I
millionaires.
know that. I've talked
Yeah, yeah.
about that frequently. I ran into a lot of those people at the Bitcoin conference in Vegas, where the story was exactly the same. That if it wasn't for me, they never would have bought Bitcoin. And
100%.
so, uh, yeah, I mean, a lot of people got rich off of Bitcoin because of me, even though I never recommended that they buy it.
It's hilarious. To me, I love it. I just been waiting to tell you thank you.
Now the question is though, you
Yeah.
got to be selling it. You can't not sell it, or you're going to lose the wealth. You got to sell.
See, that's the funny thing. Just like gold was a better purchase value, right? Is a better store of value at the time, right? I don't know what it was. It was technology at one point. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? At one point, right? We could store more of it. People believed in it. I just truly believe people are going to see what I saw. You know what I mean? Like, why? Like, I love you to death. I stopped buying gold around $1,000 an ounce. So maybe I shouldn't have, you know what I mean? And thank God I did, man. Had I bought Bitcoin instead of gold or gold instead of Bitcoin, where
Well,
would I be?
that's you, right? But
Yeah,
the people,
I agree. Yeah.
anybody who started buying 4 years ago, let's say, right?
Yep.
They're way worse off. They would have been better off buying gold and silver. So
Agree. Okay.
the question,
But let's see what happens in 15 years. That might not be the case.
no,
Right.
I think in 15 years, if you still hold your Bitcoin, it's going to be less than the 1,000 you started buying at. You're going to lose everything, because I think that this is just a whole pyramid Ponzi, right? Silver and gold are real. You got an illusion. Now, yes, you got in early enough that more
Yeah,
fools
exactly. I don't
got
feel the
in.
pain everyone else
Look,
feels. It's over for me in a way. I
no,
agree.
more fools came in after you did, right? And they bid up the price of what you owned. and they gave you the opportunity to sell what you own. But we're running out of it. It's finished, I think. Now, is it possible that Bitcoin can rally and make a new high? It's possible, but it's also possible it never will see a new high, that it's over and that it's going down.
See, I learned so much from you, right? And you kind of like taught me so much about the beginnings of value. And I don't understand why you don't understand that Bitcoin's going to $1 million and now, like it's going to $1 million
No,
a coin.
yes,
Like
exactly. And it's funny,
know,
and I've said this, a lot of people in the Bitcoin community
like I
recognize,
knew gold was going to
yeah,
$5,000 an ounce.
they,
I told you that
they,
10 years ago.
they,
Just like I knew Bitcoin
yeah,
was going to 100K.
let me
Yeah.
finish what I'm saying. There are a lot of people in the Bitcoin community that hold me in high regard, that think I'm a smart person, that respect me, and they can't understand why I don't own Bitcoin because they believe
Yeah.
in it. And they
Yeah.
think therefore I must have an ulterior motive. I secretly own it.
Yeah. You have tons of Bitcoin somewhere. Like that's what I'm assuming. Like it
Yeah,
has to be. Yeah.
because
That's the same way.
that's the only way you can square it in your mind, right?
Yeah, because it doesn't make any other sense. Yeah,
Right,
agreed.
because you don't want to admit that maybe I know something that you don't.
I'm okay. Actually, no, I'm
Maybe
okay. See,
I'm
the thing is,
right and you're
no,
wrong.
maybe you are. Maybe you are.
Yes,
That's
that's
why I
the
never
point.
sold my gold. That's why I never sold my gold. I never
But
sold
you
the
got
gold that I did
have
have.
you sold any Bitcoin?
Never. I refuse.
What?
I won't
All
sell
right.
it.
So,
Just like I won't sell my Bitcoin. I'd rather die with the gold than the Bitcoin.
all right. Well, how much did you invest in Bitcoin originally?
I don't like to say originally because it's kind of like a security
Well,
issue.
no one's going to know who
And
you are. This is anonymous.
I guess, but I mean, everyone knows me. I have a YouTube channel.
All
I've
right.
been taking
All
a day
right.
off
So,
for 4
okay.
years.
So you
I'm
don't want
famous
to
on
know,
YouTube.
but you bought it.
I mean, let's just say, fine. I started buying 5 coins under around between 800 and 1,000.
Right. You start. So you're up. Close to 100 times your money.
100x.
For
Yeah,
100x,
for sure.
right? So you put
Yeah.
you put in $100,000 and you got $100 million, right? And maybe you didn't put in 100,000. Maybe you put in 10,000. You got 10 million, right? Something like that.
Okay.
Now, have you borrowed against any of that Bitcoin?
I've done nothing. None. I do
All
nothing.
right. So, all
I
right.
plan on it. That's see, the goal is to borrow against it, turn it into real estate. I have built a $5 million real estate portfolio in the interim. It's given me time to invest in other things. I will tell you that.
Right.
Like,
okay. But what's
I
the
came out of
highest?
the Bitcoin bubble at least.
What's the most you pay for Bitcoin?
84. I bought a whole coin like 6 months ago when we were in that
At
dip.
84,000?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you're still buying up here. So that's there.
I
That's
bought 5K yesterday.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all right.
Yeah.
But look, I think that you should be selling. You should not buy any more at a minimum, right? You have a lower cost basis. You're just averaging up at this point. But you need to sell a bunch of that Bitcoin and realize the gain and invest in something else, whether it's real estate, whether it's, stocks, something. But the one thing you don't want to do is turn that big winner into a loser. Because if you hold long enough, all of your profits will be gone and you'll be stuck with losses. You don't want that. You don't want to take that huge winning trade and turn into a loss. Now, the only negative about this, right? Because I'm trying to encourage you to sell your Bitcoin or some of your Bitcoin. You don't have to sell it all. Just sell some of it. Sell enough of it so that you don't care if it goes to zero. Because I'm sure if it went to zero and you didn't sell any, you would care. So make sure you sell enough so that if it goes to zero, you don't care, right? You're okay. But I know that if you follow my advice and sell your Bitcoin, some other poor fool is going to buy it from you. And now that person is going to lose the money instead of you. I know that. But you know what? At least I can try to help you because you're listening to my space. I don't know the guy, not that I know you personally, but I have this but I don't know the guy that's going to buy it from you. I don't know the random person. And if he didn't buy yours, he would buy somebody else's, right? So somebody is going to lose money in Bitcoin, whether you sell yours or not.
What if we both can agree that enough billions of a small percentage of these billions of people on Earth will be inquisitive enough to believe that it does carry? See, my whole thing is you can memorize 24 words and travel anywhere in the
Yeah, I
world.
would forget.
I
I
can't
would
take my
forget
gold
those
anywhere.
words. I don't
I can't take
have a
my
good
gold
enough
anywhere.
memory. But you know,
Well, that's you. That's not me. I mean, so the whole point, I get it. And there's other ways to do it. There's third party. There's SHA-256.
yeah.
There's
Look,
other ways to go about
look.
it that aren't that
I
complicated.
think
You know,
Bitcoin is very clever. It's interesting, but I think that the people who want to buy Bitcoin already bought it. I think it's already mature. I was at that conference in Vegas, 35, 40,000 people there thinking they're in on the
yeah.
ground floor. Believe me, that's nothing like the ground floor. I mean, that exhibit hall was insane. Like, I've been going to gold conferences for like 20 years, and they're tiny. There's nobody there. I mean, what I've seen in these Bitcoin conferences, this is a mania. This is the peak of a bubble. This is not the ground
Well, but
floor of anything.
is there a percentage of your mind? Because you're a smart guy. To me, people that are extremely intelligent business wise, they always keep a piece of what if, right? Is there a chance you're wrong? Is there a chance Bitcoin goes to $1 million a
Okay,
coin? Is there a chance it hits a $20 trillion
There is a
asset?
there is a chance that it goes to 1 million. There's no chance that I'm wrong. But there is a chance that it goes to 1 million. But I think the chance of Bitcoin going to 1 million is not big enough to want to bet on it. And the 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 most likely scenario for Bitcoin going to 1 million is hyperinflation. And
Yep,
so
it's true.
and
It's
it
true.
may and $1 million Bitcoin may represent a decline.
200 grand
so
today. You know what I mean?
so
Yeah, 100 grand Bitcoin today or something, right? Because it's in the ratio value of inflation.
but
You
in
know?
real
Yeah.
terms, I don't expect Bitcoin. And what I've been telling people for the past couple of years is, look, even if Bitcoin goes up, I don't think it's going to go up as much as my gold and silver or my gold and silver stocks. And so I said, for the risk reward, I'd rather own that. And yes, I would be richer today had I bought a bunch of Bitcoin when you first bought your Bitcoin at 1,000,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
I am a lot richer today because I didn't buy any Bitcoin 3 or 4 years ago, or 2 years ago, or 1 year ago.
Amen.
So it just depends
Amen.
on when you look at it.
I
And
agree.
and
Yeah, yeah. You're also a hustler, Peter, man. You're a hustler. Everyone,
yeah,
like I work 7 days a week. You work 7 days a week. You're on a space after Christmas. You know
I'm
what I
not
fully
working. I'm
realize?
doing this for fun.
Yeah, you know,
This is
you're
my leisure.
educating. Yeah, you're educating on leisure. But one thing I did notice, man, is once you have work ethic and discipline, if discipline goes to zero, who cares?
Yeah.
Even though I mean, if Bitcoin goes to zero, who cares? If gold goes down, me and you can produce from within, right? So what do
Well,
we have to?
gold's not going to go to
What are you
zero. It's
worried about? Yeah,
impossible.
yeah, yeah.
But Bitcoin was zero 15 years ago. So, I mean, it could easily go back to
I see
zero
your point.
again.
Like gold wasn't zero 15 years ago. I never
No,
actually,
it wasn't
yeah,
zero a
never.
thousand years ago.
Yeah, never. I mean, I don't know when it started at something, right? Yeah,
Well,
like,
the first person that found it valued it for it was never zero.
yeah, yeah.
But so it's there. But anyway, I want to hop because I want to get
100%.
some.
I just
But
want to say
look,
thank you.
I'm
You've been like a
glad.
mentor, a
Look,
father figure to me. I just want to say, God bless you, man. Everything you do. I
look,
love the banter between the Bitcoin community and you. We really, true love you. You helped so much of us see value, and I think you've made us a lot of entrepreneurs too, man. So
yeah, look, I'm glad I was able
God
to
bless your
help
dad,
you.
man. He fought to the end, man. I read your dad's story too, man.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
look, I'm glad I was able to help you make a lot of money in Bitcoin. But again, you're only going to make it if you sell. If you
amen.
ride it all the way back down, I didn't make you anything. But you're lucky that you didn't listen to me when it was 1,000 and that you bought it anyway. But you're going to be unlucky if you don't listen to me now. You guys, I was,
Have a
and in
blessed
fact,
day,
if you
man.
remember what I was saying when it was 1,000 back then, I was telling people, look, this thing can go a lot higher. I remember saying that many times. One time I even said it can go to 50,000. I threw that number out there when it
Mhm.
was way below 10,000. But I said, look, it's pure gambling. This is pure like a bubble getting bigger. I said, I have no idea if it's going to happen, but it could happen because I thought the
But
whole thing
to
was
me, the reason
ridiculous.
why Bitcoin, this is why I realized Bitcoin was worth it, is because of the hash rate. They first started mining it on phones, right? You could mine it on a phone, and then it got too hard to mine on a phone, right? It
Yeah.
got too difficult, and so people with their phones had to stop. And a few people could do it, but then you had to use like a professional laptop or a better laptop, and then the difficulty level went up. Then it ebbed back down, right? And people couldn't, because every time people start to jump in, it creates a difficulty level too high that the people that jumped in at the end can't handle it, and they can't make enough money for the electricity. Only the big boys can stand
Yeah,
out.
and there were people
The
that were
hash rate,
mining it.
the
Look,
hash
they
rate
were
has never gone down, Peter. It continues to go up in
yeah, they
value.
people were in their college dorms like mining it because
But what it made me realize, Peter, is that
they
the
got the
hash rate's
electricity for free.
yeah,
But
but
look,
that
I
hash
know,
rate's amazing.
I
But the
got
hash
it. Look,
rate's never going to go down. Like
I
it
gotta
keeps
let
going
you
up and
hop.
down.
But I don't think any of that matters anymore. And again,
But that's the
what
internal value of Bitcoin is that hash rate.
if you
Like there's
really
so much money behind that.
if you really like Bitcoin, just get rid of all your Bitcoin now or most of it and wait until MicroStrategy or Strategy goes bankrupt. Wait until they're forced to sell all their Bitcoin and then buy it. It'll be way cheaper. So you'll save yourself a lot of money. And in the meantime, you could do something more productive with it. But anyway, thanks a lot. Who's up next?
God
Anyone want
bless
to
you.
raise their hand?
Thank you for your time.
All right, Sam. Take care.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I've heard that story many times, but from all the people that ended up buying Bitcoin because of me. But I guess it worked out well if they bought it a long time ago. But I doubt anybody is buying Bitcoin today because of me. Because I think the people that bought it because of me bought it a long time ago because I've been so, adamant against it recently. I can't imagine any of my followers buying it now at these prices. All right, I just saw somebody's hand go up and then it went away really quick, so I lost you. I'm adding a couple of people who are just requested to speak. Bammy, it's like or Wolf.
Hey, Peter.
Yes,
First off, congrats. This is Illini here.
Eleni. Okay, hi. How are you?
All right, how are you?
Good.
Well, first off, congrats. Second off, you've been talking a lot about, minor valuations, both in gold and in silver. I wanted to throw an idea at you. In oil, a lot of the juniors suffered from really low valuations in some of the past rallies because the market was always betting on a pullback. But if they had been able to lock in some of their costs and lock in some of, the revenues, I think the market probably would have given them some more credit. So my question is, you know, would it make sense here for, gold and silver miners to hedge off like 5 or 10% of their production and then basically hedge at the same time their fuel purchases? It looks like the futures curve for both is relatively flat right now. And then they can come back to the market and say, hey, we've locked in some of our margins here. We basically traded 5% of our silver production for, 15, 20% of our costs.
Yeah, well, they
Is
already
there room
look.
for them
A
to do
lot of
that?
these companies have already hedged off some because they had to borrow money to build out the mines, and the lenders required them to hedge. Um, and and so there is some hedging that's already going on in these stocks, and they have locked in pretty good profits on what they've hedged, and they have unlimited upside on what they didn't hedge. But there's a lot less hedging going on now than there used to be 20 years ago and stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, if I were a gold mining company, though, I would do as little hedging as possible because the shareholders of gold mining companies, by and large, want the upside to gold and silver. They believe that gold and silver prices are going up. So they're not buying into these companies because they want the management to hedge, right? They're not buying it as just like a yield play and, hey, I just want you to lock in a good profit so I can get a good dividend. I am bullish on the price of gold and I want the upside, and I'm willing to take the risk that gold goes down and that the company's profits go down. I'm willing to take that risk because I don't think that's what's going to happen. I'm
Peter,
confident
I agree
that the
with you
prices are
there.
going up. Yeah.
I agree with you there for about 60% of the shareholder base, but the maxis don't actually set the marginal price of the stock. It's the cautious bulls who are doing it. And the cautious bulls, in order to give them the re-rate, are going to want to say, hey, can you lock in, some of your profit margins? Silver might go back down. We're okay with taking that risk. But what we'd like to see, though, is to make sure that you've got your costs under control and you're going to be able to, you're going to be having
Yeah.
positive cash flows,
Oh, they are.
even if there's a retracement in silver.
Although the thing is, the prices have gone up so much so quickly that I don't think any of these companies are in danger. I mean, even if prices went down 30, 40%, they have so much leeway in there now. The prices have gone
So,
up
so
so much in relation to their costs that,
I,
I mean, all you're doing by hedging is saying, I want to lock, there's so much profit now, I want to lock this profit in, as opposed
I
to,
know,
it's
Peter.
not so much as a risk at this point, given, but I still think there's a lot of upside coming. It's not like it's over. But if some of these
I agree with
companies,
you.
if some of these companies want to sell their quarterly or the year, they want to lock in the price for the quarter or the year, that's not bad. You don't want to go long term and like lock in your price, like, oh, I'm going to sell my gold and silver at this price for the next 5 years. You don't want to do that. But if you're a silver company and you're seeing a big spike to 80 and you want to sell a little bit, I'm not going to kill you if to sell some silver for $80. But I wouldn't want you to sell it all or anywhere near, because I think silver's going higher than that, quite a bit higher actually.
Yeah, my only point is that there
And
seems to be a
costs,
transaction here that doesn't offend the maxis. If they were to just hedge off 5 or 10% of it and use that to hedge their other inflation adjusted exposures, like fuel, then I don't think the maxis
well,
get
I mean, if
offended,
I
and I
was
think it helps the marginal bulls.
Well, one of the things I would be doing now as a gold company is I would be hedging energy. Energy is pretty cheap right now, so you can hedge that. You can buy some, calls or do some stuff on the energy. Yeah, because I know energy costs are going to go up. No question about that. All right. Well, thanks for your call. Who's up next?
Thanks, Peter.
I got a couple of you guys on deck. Wolf, Bammy.
Hey, Peter, I'll jump in.
Is that Wolf?
Appreciate you having me up here. Yeah, it's Wolf. Yeah, you're missing some good weather down in Puerto Rico. I'll just say that first off.
Oh.
We had you on one of our podcasts not too long ago, and
Yeah, well, we're going to
really
get a
good.
snowstorm here. My kids are excited about that. We don't get to see any snow in Puerto Rico, but we're about to
I
get some
bet.
snow
Yeah,
here in
it's
New
just
England.
same 10-degree range every day down there on the island. Good times though. We love it down there. Peter, I wanted to ask you. A lot of times when we look at what are the tailwinds and the headwinds for different things, it seems like almost everyone's making multiple arguments that it's just a lot of tailwinds behind gold, behind silver, behind these metals from multiple things. You mentioned, a lot of people like central banks were wanting to buy, they're dumping bonds essentially to buy these metals. And then there was something you mentioned as well with like crypto, where people are, speculators within crypto are saying, okay, let's maybe take some money pulled out of that and go in. Are you seeing just multiple tailwinds still behind all these precious metals?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you got fundamentals, you've got technicals. I mean, there's so much going for the precious metals. And again, I think the one cloud that has been overhanging precious metals for the past couple of years has been Bitcoin. And it's cast a big shadow that has taken a lot of investor attention, particularly here in the US, away from the metals. And I think now it's precious metals are coming out from that cloud, because I think that you've got this bear market now in Bitcoin, this bear market in MicroStrategy that is going to accelerate in the new year. And that's going to really refocus attention on the precious metals. Now remember, the whole marketing of Bitcoin was that gold is worthless now. Gold's being demonetized. Gold's going to crash. Gold has got no value now because Bitcoin is better. Bitcoin Bitcoin is everything gold wants to be but can't be. Like it's a better version of gold, and now gold can just be a metal, right? It could just be used in jewelry. We don't need it anymore. And so a lot of people had heard that. Okay, well, they didn't have an interest in investing in something that, was like the horse and buggy, like it was going away, it was going out, it was being replaced by the motor car. And so once more people realize that that's not the case, that Bitcoin was just a flash in the pan, that it's over, and that gold is still gold, and that Bitcoin was never gold, and silver is still silver, I think that's huge. So now you remove that distraction, that headwind. We've got all these tailwinds, and it's going to be so ironic too that so many people who bought Bitcoin instead of gold are going to watch gold and silver soar as their Bitcoin crashes. And I feel bad too that that's going to happen. I mean, I can't stop it from happening. I mean, I'm trying to save as many people as I can, but I know I can't save everybody because that's impossible, because everybody can't get out. Only a few people can get out. The masses are going to be stuck in. That's how these things work. But for the people who bought Bitcoin for those reasons, I mean, there's a lot of people who bought Bitcoin just because they wanted to get rich, just because they jumped on a bandwagon, they got suckered in. They don't really know that much about Austrian economics or, sound money or libertarians. I mean, so those guys are, they deserve to lose their money. And so, whatever, right? I mean, they lost their money in all kinds of crazy things. Maybe they bought Beanie Babies, or they bought, pets.com, or who knows. But the people that I feel badly about will be like the guy, the last caller, who, I don't feel badly about him because he got in at 1,000, but he just said he bought another Bitcoin last week for 85 grand. So, this guy, if he doesn't follow my advice to sell, he's going to lose a lot of money when he could have made money if he had been in gold and silver, because he bought Bitcoin for the right reasons, but he bought the wrong thing, right? He understood the problems, and he just implemented the wrong solution, you know. And it's ironic, or it's unfortunate, because those people are going to lose more money than people who didn't even know there was a problem, who didn't even worry about the dollar or inflation and didn't even bother to hedge. So it's worse when you know about it and you just do the wrong thing. Now, at least there are some people that bought both, that said, okay, look, I'm just going to cover my bases. I've got gold, I've got silver, I got Bitcoin. Okay, those people are going to be okay. But the people who are just all in on Bitcoin, that's going to be a big problem. And there's quite a few of those guys.
So the reverse side of that question, Peter, is we know all these. We can define a lot of these tailwinds coming into the metals right now. Is there a headwind you see out there? I mean, obviously I see the people making the technical arguments on the charts and stuff, but aside from those arguments, which you need more than just that, in my opinion at least, are there other headwinds that you're seeing out there against these right now?
What headwinds? I mean, I don't think, other than the fact that, you know, there can always be a pullback when we've had this kind of run, a technical correction or something. I don't see anything on the horizon that is going to change this, unless, AI has a positive impact on productivity faster than I think. And there are people that believe that it's going to be very fast. Um, but I've been hearing this for the last few years, and I still haven't seen it, you know. you know. So I think stuff always takes longer than people imagine. Just like this whole bubble has been inflating. I thought that it would collapse a lot long, years ago, and it hasn't done it. So things can go on longer than you think. It doesn't happen as soon as you think. And I think the same thing will work, for positive things, not just for negative things, right? We can a problem could linger before it becomes a crisis. And so the AI, AI could do all these wonderful things, but it may take a lot longer than the people who are involved in it believe.
Yeah, we were having that same issue finding people to make the argument for a headwind for something, against gold, silver, or many of the other metals. Another
Yeah, I
thing,
mean, we'd
just
have to
real
get, look,
fast.
the Fed would have to be very aggressive in hiking rates. I mean, I don't see that happening. I mean, and if the
Right,
Fed
apart from something breaking in the economy, right?
Well, and if the Fed were very aggressive in hiking rates, there'd be a financial crisis, and then you'd have to say, well, will people not buy gold during that crisis? So even rate hikes might not, it may temporarily cause a pullback, but I think we'd end up making new highs because the rate hikes would cause the financial crisis, which would cause, people to buy gold when the Fed started bailing everybody out.
The flight right back to safety. Yeah, exactly. And that's where, like, the other thing we discussed on our podcast, the 60-20-20 piece. The one follow-up question I wanted to ask you on that, and I'm not saying that that was your recommendation, just one of the ones that's out there that we discussed a little bit, as far as putting, the allocation of your portfolio. When you see valuations like they are today, do you deviate at all from that towards the metals a little bit more? Maybe not as a safer asset, but as a little bit better value play here because of the overextension of some of these values across the Nasdaq, across the S&P.
What'd you say again?
Do you deviate away from, like, maybe a 60-20-20 or a 60-30-10, just as far as portfolio construction, when you see the valuations the way that they are in the current market?
Like in valuations of the miners.
No, I mean, like, when you see the AI stocks, the your mega cap tech stocks and those, and if you have some of your portfolio in there and you see the valuations they're sitting at, do you think, hey, maybe it's time to go into gold a little bit more, which
Look,
obviously at all-time highs,
I
but I'm
only
just
have I only have a
allocation.
few stocks that are AI related. Like I own a stock. I own Taiwan Semiconductor. I own this company in Thailand, Delta Electronics, which has been a huge home run for me, which has been caught up in AI. So I have a few like stocks that are AI related, but I don't have Nvidia. I don't have like Microsoft or Meta or Google or Anthropic or I don't know whatever these stocks are. I don't have these positions, so I'm not even I mean, obviously, I should have bought some of these stocks. They did really well. Um, but I was just putting a lot of my money in gold stocks and silver stocks, and then I was buying conservative stocks with good dividends to kind of offset that. That was kind of my approach. Like I was concentrating my speculative money on the miners, and then I was investing in defensive stocks, tobacco, food and beverage, pharmaceutical. I was doing good, safe things, and then I was concentrating my risk instead of putting it in tech. I was putting it in gold and silver and getting the miners. So that was kind of what I was, because I felt a lot more comfortable with that. Um, you know, and I own what do I own? It's tech. I own Singapore Technology. I mean, I own a few tech stocks, but not the ones that everybody thinks about. I own um, what you would call it? Sometimes I'm bad with names. Um, I'll find it. Am I? So yeah, Tencent. I've owned Tencent for a while. So I have some tech stocks, but they're not. I'm way underweight tech.
Well, Peter, I'll
But
I'll definitely pass the mic around. I appreciate you.
all
When you
right,
get back down to Puerto Rico, you'll have to come see
yeah.
some
Well,
of the Wolf team
we'll
down
be
there.
back, or we'll be back early in the new year. The kids go back to school, so we'll be back.
All right. Well, we're all in the Carolina
All
area,
right,
so we'll have to meet up sometime.
all right. Take care. Yeah, I know there's a lot of crypto people. They do this crypto Monday there, and I went one time. They've been trying to get me back over in Puerto Rico, San Juan. Um, anyway, who's up? I still got a couple of people that are muted that can speak. You guys got to unmute yourself. I'm going to go for another, so it'll be 4 hours, and I got about another 23 more minutes. Then I'm going to go. So anybody that wants to talk,
Oh,
you got
hey,
to get
Peter.
to. Hey,
Hey, I'm early buyer gold and silver physical.
yeah,
I
you know
remember
that it looks
buying.
like everything's settled up. When I'm looking, I think everything stopped trading, but silver's up almost $7 and 40 some odd cents on a day. I mean, let me to get this. So it's up 10.34%. Gold was only up like 1.2%. So gold was like an afterthought today. So 10.3% for silver and 9.5% for platinum and 13 plus percent for palladium. Yeah, maybe one of the reasons that the gold stocks didn't do better today is they were just looking at the $50 price of gold move and weren't paying attention to any of these other precious metals. and so
It's a good day to be an OG.
and
God, I remember.
yeah. but
Can you hear
and
me?
meanwhile, Bitcoin didn't do anything. I mean, I think it was slightly positive, but if you look at MicroStrategy was down on the day, closed off the lows, but it made a new 52-week low. And the Bitcoin ETFs were up on the day, but like less than a third of 1%. So, no money being made in crypto.
Not today. God, I
Well,
remember buying monster boxes from Tolving. Remember that guy?
who?
One of the old precious metal physical
Uh,
buyers and sellers.
yeah.
God, way back in 11, 12.
Yeah. Well, I put
One of
on
my
post today when I first started buying silver for my brokerage clients, it was under $5 an ounce. Today, it was up by more than the total value. It was up by $7. I was buying silver for $4.50, and now it's up $7.50 in a single day.
Oh, Peter, the way I think about it is my first monster box, it was $12 silver. It was probably $14 purchase cost. God, the premium on a monster box, that's a 500-ounce
Look,
box of silver American Eagles or
here's
Canadian.
crazy.
Yeah.
So this summer, I bought a statue, a sculpture that had 1,000 ounces of pure silver in the sculpture. Okay, and when I bought the sculpture, the silver was worth about $37,500 because silver was $37.50 an ounce. And I liked the sculpture, but one of the reasons I was willing to buy the sculpture, and I had to pay quite a bit more than the melt value of the silver for the sculpture, is I said, you know what? I know by next year it's going to be worth more than I paid because I think silver is going to be $100 an ounce by next year. And
Well, marble doesn't go up in value, but silver
and
does.
and I was like, yeah, well, granted, or whatever, or they make it out of copper because they make statues out of bronze, but it's not gonna. But I knew that worst case scenario, this sculpture will be worth more than what I paid, even though I bought it as an art. Now, obviously, I could have went out and bought silver and made more money, but I wanted it because I liked it as a work of art, and maybe it probably has a lot of collector value, so it's probably worth a lot more than the melt value. But I knew even if no one gave a shit about the artist, nobody wanted it for anything, I'll be able to melt it down for more than I'm paying for it. And it's almost there. It's almost now. Yeah,
Oh,
because now the silver's
Peter,
worth
tell us
almost
what the
80
sculpture
grand.
is.
And it hadn't even been 6 months. I haven't even owned this thing for 6 months.
Awesome. What is it? It's about
It's
1,000
a thousand.
ounces, 70 pounds.
Well, it actually weighs about 130 pounds because in addition to
Oof.
1,000 ounces of silver, the rest of the sculpture has a base that's bronze, silver plated bronze. So it's a heavy work, but it's an eagle, right? And just the eagle itself is what's made of silver, but it's perched on a constitution, and the constitution is not made of silver. It's got a silver patina on it, but it's not solid silver there. But the bird itself is 1,000 ounces of silver.
Oh, you should post a picture of
Yeah,
it.
it's
It
very
sounds
pretty. Well,
amazing.
Donald Trump has the same sculpture in the Oval Office as part of the Permanent Connect collection, but his isn't silver. He's got a gold-plated bronze. So if you can see it, it's up in when he's there talking in the Oval Office, and he's sitting behind the Resolute desk. The sculpture is off to the right. It's called the presidential American Patriot.
Oh, totally. I've totally seen that. Must be hard to clean that thing. It does,
Well, the
silver does
silver,
patina
still,
a
yeah,
little bit.
gold doesn't tarnish. It hasn't tarnished at all yet since I've owned it. I mean, I have it. It's in air conditioning. So hopefully I don't have to polish it much. So far,
Ah,
but yeah, the gold one he'll never have to polish. But the gold one is not solid gold. That would be a fortune. It's just plated gold.
Oh,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course, plated.
But
No, art's great. There's use cases
yeah,
precious metals, absolutely.
yeah. All right.
Then I started buying Bitcoin and other
Yeah,
cryptos.
yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot.
Good talking to you, man.
All right, Banji, you're up. You're up next. Or I got a couple of guys. All right, I'll bring up a couple more people. You got to notice that if I brought you up as speaker, you just got to recognize that you're a speaker and then unmute yourself and start talking.
Hey, Peter, what's going on? This is Panda. How you
Hey,
doing?
Panda, how are you?
Doing well. So I wanted your outlook on copper, just its industrial usage. Also, there's plans to decarbonize. There's plans electrification of the grid. AI play as well. How do you see copper playing out as an industrial metal in 26
Well, I've
and
been
beyond?
bullish on copper. Copper hit a new all-time record high today. So it's not just a precious metals rally that's going on. Industrial, non-ferrous metals are rising. Copper was up almost 5% on the day. So, decent move. I mean, and, I own copper stocks in addition to gold and silver stocks. I own some copper streamers. So I like copper. I mean, copper's going up, there's all sorts of uses. I've liked it a lot just for the whole, electric, you need copper for the batteries and the whole electric vehicles and solar panels and all this stuff. I mean, copper is a big deal. And, as the world, increases their standard of living, as we build more homes, and, there's copper's in the wiring, it's in the plumbing. I mean, we use copper for a lot of things. And, there hasn't been any major new copper mines developed in God knows when. So I just think there's going to be a lot of demand for copper and the supply is going to be constrained. So price is going higher.
Yeah, I heard about on both sides, the demand as well as the supply. I also wanted to ask you your thoughts on uranium.
Yeah. I mean, I'm bullish on uranium. I mean, I've been bullish on it for a long, long time, but there's a lot of speculative money in uranium. And so, I mean, there could be a big pullback in uranium. I mean, I wouldn't be chasing uranium at these levels. But you get some of these stocks, get like a 50% pullback or something. I'd take a look at them again. But they've had a big run, and I think there's some downside risk. Some of the hot money could come out of those stocks. But I mean, yeah, I mean, look, uranium is a good story. I mean, and it's part of the energy play, and nuclear is very real, and it's something that's going to be developed, and it needs uranium, and doesn't need a lot of it, but it needs it, and there's not, so the price can go higher without hurting the demand because it's still, it's an essential part of the process, and it's not in the scheme of things, it's not that expensive.
Yeah, so I'm a crypto guy, but I still hedge. I have traditional equities, ETFs, obviously commodities. It's funny because you can get some of these outsized returns just without having to go into crypto. Crypto does have a lot of asymmetric upside. However, just in uranium, I wanted to get your thought as well because another area, a lot of explosive growth, quantum. Do you think it's too early for the quantum narrative?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't own those stocks. I know they've had a run, and quantum is actually one of the things that is a threat to Bitcoin. And I don't know that Bitcoin is asymmetric upside anymore. I mean, I think there's a lot of downside there.
Well,
I
what
think
about Peter? What about Ethereum? Like how Larry Fink says he wants to basically tokenize equities, tokenize everything. It's going to have to go on a blockchain. Like, do you think there's any kind of interplay with blockchains like ETH, Solana, etc.?
Well, there are a lot of Ether has a lot of competition. There are a lot of other blockchains that can do the same thing as Ethereum without as expensive as the gas that you pay on Ethereum. Um, but I know there's a use case for Ethereum. I know a lot of guys that are big Ethereum guys that have been in it since, the beginning, $1 Ethereum, whatever the hell it was, and who have, hundreds of millions or billions of dollars worth of this stuff. So I know these guys. Um, but I think the whole crypto trade, there's too much money already in it for there to be enough upside left in it. At a minimum, on Ethereum, if you look at a chart, you know, you want to buy it when it gets near or under 1,000. If you're a believer in it. So at 3,000, to me, I mean, could it go back up to 4 or 5,000? I think it's far more likely to go back down to 1,000 first. And of course, if it breaks that, and it can go down to 200. I mean, now back down to 200, it may look interesting, uh, for all those reasons you're talking about. But at where it is right now, there are so much better places to put your money. I mean, can Ether go from 3,000 to 5,000? Yes, but I think that there are gold and silver stocks that have a lot more upside potential where it's much more realistic in my mind that it's going to happen. And I think, Ether can go down 90%. It can go down to 200. I don't think my mining stocks have anywhere near that kind of downside risk. They have downside risk, but I don't think they're going down 90%.
Very cool. So thanks, Peter, very much for your time. I
All right.
remember that epic call you made back in, I think it was around an '08 crisis, that gentleman on Fox News. So yeah, great call, and been following your work for a while. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Who's next? I still got a couple of guys in the queue. Hello. That's AIG, Banji, Sammy, Tiger. Oh no, I haven't gotten Tiger up yet.
Hey, Peter, what's
All
going
right.
on?
Who's that? Sammy.
Sammy, yeah, Sammy. Hey, listen, I just want to know, when did you have the fuck you moment when everybody around you was doubting you? When you were young, when you were smart, you were working a 9 to 5. When did you say, hey, this guy's an idiot? But
What
when you
what
had a,
what guy you talking about?
no, just like your anecdotal experience, like when did you know everybody was around you, like, hey, I know what the hell I'm talking about? And you know what you're talking about was much more congruent, and you had a moat and you had a thesis, and it was standful. And you knew that whatever you were saying, you were confident, and thus it kind of worked out for you, obviously. But when
Well, I
was
mean,
that time?
I've always been confident that I was right. And I guess obviously it worked against me with Bitcoin in that I was confident that I knew that it would eventually collapse, but I could have made a lot of money, riding that bubble for a while. But I mean, I was very confident during the housing bubble. I was very confident during the dot-com bubble that I was right and the consensus was wrong. And and I was proven right on the dot-coms, and I was proven right on housing. And what's been going on ever since the bailouts of the 2008 financial crisis, I've been convinced that my assessment of how the Fed handled it and what we did is correct. And the consensus that the Fed saved us and that Bernanke is a hero and that the U.S. economy is in good shape now, that consensus is wrong. That my take that we sold our souls to the devil and that the devil is going to collect, that we made the problems that caused that crisis significantly worse. I know that I'm right about that. And I'm going to be vindicated on this too. This has just taken longer to vindicate me. And I think that what we're seeing now in the precious metal space is just the beginning of the vindication. But it will be complete, when we get the dollar crisis and the bond crisis and the economy, the whole economy tanks. I'm confident that all that's going to happen. And you can throw the collapse of Bitcoin into the mix. That's probably going to happen too. You know.
Listen, you didn't miss. I'll tell you that much. I mean, you obviously have a good record, and it's standing still. I mean, it's obviously standing the test of times as we speak. So, congratulations! I just want to say thank you so much for providing the information, man. But you killed it. You did a good job, Peter. So I
Thank
want
you.
to say
Thank you. And
thank
I
you for the
think we're going to
information.
get some recognition. I don't want to talk too much about my business, but I think we're going to get some awards from Lipper next year for best performance of the year, best performance over 10 years. I mean, I've got some some publicly traded funds that have phenomenal track records now over a 10-year time period, which is, this is the time periods where they measure things. But all of that really is the last couple of years. Like, you could look back and say, hey, I was in last place over 10 years a couple of years ago, but now I'm in first place because patience paid off. Like, it doesn't really matter. Like, if you go from, 1 to 100, and you win, it doesn't matter, where you were at 70 or 80, right? It doesn't matter how long. If you finish the race and you win, it doesn't matter if you were behind for, the first 75% of the race. If you cross the finish line first, you win, right? They don't give a prize halfway through, 3/4 of the way through. So I was always confident that my strategy would pay off if people were just patient enough to let it work. The problem was some people lost their patience and bailed out. What was so frustrating is how many people bailed out at the end of last year, at the beginning of this year. And that was so unfortunate because all they had to do was wait one more year and everything paid off, right? They made back a decade of underperformance to be at the top. It just took
Peter, are you
one
talking
good
about
year.
gold here?
Well, just all my strategies, my investment strategies, from gold and foreign stocks and all the
What
stuff
about
that I did.
what about your Bitcoin strategy? I'm just curious.
No,
He's very bearish on that.
I
I
don't
mean,
Why
have
he's very
why
clear.
why is that?
I
Consider it's
don't
one of the best performing assets in human history. Why?
I don't have a Bitcoin. My Bitcoin strategy is not to own it. So that has
Oh, come on now, Peter. Come on.
what do you mean? That's my Bitcoin strategy. And
So you
it's
got one of the
worked
best performing. Wait a minute. You got one of the best performing assets in human history,
well.
and you don't take any position in it. Not
Well,
even one.
it hasn't been the best performing asset over the last 4 years. It's been one of the
Right.
worst. So
Wait,
I
wait, what time? Wait. What time frame is that? One of the
the last
worst.
four, yeah, last four.
It's been one of the worst performing assets in history.
Well, no, not in history, but a lot worse than what everything I've owned. I mean,
Wouldn't that be chair? Couldn't I say that about gold in the prior 4 years? I could compare that to gold.
well, I'm talking about right
I've
now.
owned gold since 2010, and it hasn't done very well
Well,
all the way
wait a
until
minute.
recently.
Gold since 2010, gold is about tripled. So it's done all right. But yeah,
Yeah, you want to compare that to Bitcoin?
no, because Bitcoin is irrelevant to gold. It's like,
Mm, no, it's
Bitcoin.
very relevant.
No, Bitcoin rose from nothing. So obviously, Bitcoin was nothing 15 years ago, and
Okay,
so it went from pennies. It got pumped up. I'm not gonna, I don't give a shit about that. But most of the people,
you don't care about making. You don't care about making money. Is that what I
no,
just read?
the people who made money in Bitcoin bought it 15 years ago, 10 years ago.
No. Every single person who's held it for 4 years or more has made Bitcoin money on Bitcoin,
No, not the
including
last
myself.
4 years. They've been better off owning gold or silver by a long
All
shot.
right, revert. You're cherry picking your time
I'm
frames. I don't
talking
like that.
about, you just said anybody who's owned Bitcoin for 4 years has done good. I said, no, the last 4 years they have not. I'm not cherry picking. I'm just
You're
taking
cherry
today.
picking an exact time frame to fit your narrative. Yes, you
No,
are.
I'm taking
Yes.
today. I'm taking today and going back 4 years. That's what I'm
And if you
doing.
reverse it, if you forget this year and reverse it one
Well,
more
how am I
year,
going to
it's up.
forget this year? This year happened. How am I going to forget it? You're the one
You
that
are
wants to
cherry
cherry
picking the
pick.
time frame
No, you're cherry
precisely.
picking because you want to
No,
eliminate
sir.
this
No,
year.
sir.
You
No.
you want to eliminate this year. How can that not be cherry picking? Look,
I've watched your posts. I've watched everything you said.
yeah,
You cherry pick
I'm not cherry.
just to fit your
All right,
narrative. You understand reality, my
Wait, no,
friend?
he's been hold on. He's been very standstill on
let
fucking gold.
let's
Let's be honest here.
let's put it
He's
this
been
way.
very honest on commodities
Let's
right
put
now.
it this way. Let's say a year from now, Bitcoin is 10,000. Okay, you can make the
Based
same.
on what? Theoretical what? Where did you get that?
I'm just saying, for the sake of argument, let's say in a year Bitcoin is 10,000, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You can make the same argument that Bitcoin is the best investment in human history even if it's at 10,000. If you want to ignore the last few years and you want to start when it was a penny and say Bitcoin's gone from a penny to
But
10,000,
but
it's
here's the facts. Anybody holding Bitcoin for 4 years or more is significantly
no,
up
they're
with an
not.
average of 800%. Yes, they
No.
are.
Okay.
I've
Well,
owned it for 13 years.
okay. So if you bought it I'll pull up the chart right now where it was 4 years ago.
You like to cherry pick
No,
reality.
no,
It's crazy.
I'm not cherry picking.
You are.
I'm going
I'm
back
hearing
4
you.
years. You're telling me so.
Do you live in reality?
Yeah, I
That's my
do.
curiosity.
If I was
Do
a
you understand one
co-hosting
plus
guy,
one is
would be
two?
out of here.
Apparently I'm the only one that does. So 4 years ago. So this
How
is
many percent?
this.
How much percent is Bitcoin up since inception?
I'm not talking about
Remind me.
inception. You said 4 years. So
Average of 800% every 4
yeah, and
years.
that still will be true if it's at 10,000 next year. But anyway,
Gold does not even compare to that in
yeah.
any time frame, my friend.
All right. So anyway, so this is if I go back to December of 2021, right? That was 4 years
Mm-hmm.
ago. December of 2021. All
Mm-hmm.
right, let's see. Bitcoin was around. Oh, I'm on the Ethereum chart. Hold on, I got to switch. I didn't realize I switched charts because somebody asked. So December of 2021. Wait, hold on. Gotta get it.
Can
Hold
we
on.
both agree
So
that the asset?
Bitcoin was around 50. The high was 69,000. That was November.
Yep.
So
And you're
December.
cherry picking again. I know
So
what you're
so
doing.
December.
This is psychological cherry picking,
Wait,
is what
no,
you're
I'm
doing on a
going
time
back
frame.
4 years ago. You said 4 years. So four.
I'll try to go back five. Let's go. Let's go
No, you
five.
said
Let's cherry.
no.
Let's do some cherry
No,
picking.
you said
Let's do some
four.
cherry. Go back
Now I
five.
ain't
Let's
going
go
back
back
five.
five.
I'm going back four. Because
No, because you don't want to admit the
no.
truth.
Okay, if you go,
Hey, 1 + 1 is 2.
it no.
You understand that?
Look, you know what?
You should kick this
I
guy,
have no
Peter.
problem if you want to lose all your money in Bitcoin. Go right ahead. Doesn't
I,
bother
I
me.
haven't. It counts to 80% of my net worth. Thank you.
It's
I
eight.
haven't.
It's 80% of your net worth.
It is accounted for 80% of my entire fucking net worth.
All right. Well,
That's
that
crazy.
means all right. Well, you're going to lose. If have you sold any of it yet?
Oh, I constantly rebalance. I know good habits. I understand that.
Okay, so
That's
you're
not the point. The point is this asset is unbelievable
for you because
compared to gold.
for you, not for people who bought it over the last few years. They're taking big losses.
But you could say the same thing about gold
No, no,
ranging from
nobody
2012.
is losing.
Yeah, I can cherry pick it.
No, no,
How many people didn't do well in
no.
gold
But
from 2012 to 2020
no, but
or
it's
2021?
okay. Gold is at an all-time record high today. So nobody who bought
Gold is no match for asset performance compared to
no,
Bitcoin. Where
no.
are you getting
Look,
this
central
All right,
banks,
hold
ludicrous?
on.
central banks aren't buying
What I'm
Bitcoin,
saying,
my guy.
a lot of
They're freaking buying
there
gold.
are.
Central
Hold on.
banks are getting ready to
Wait.
use Bitcoin as collateral, my
There,
friend. I don't know
there,
what you're talking
there
about.
are a lot of people who own Bitcoin who are losing money on their Bitcoin right now. There are no people who own gold who are losing money on that gold.
And what is going to be your argument in the next 1 year when it's hitting 130 to 150? What's your argument then?
Well,
That's my curiosity.
131. Hold on, 131.50, sir.
so
131,000 plus. What is going to be your
well,
argument when Bitcoin continues business as usual?
okay.
Like it always has.
I,
What makes you think that it's going to turn around and
all
reverse
right.
under 10 grand? What makes you think that?
Well,
Under what circumstances cause that?
first of
The
all,
regular Joe does not give a
it
fuck about
it's
Bitcoin.
The
You
already
know
what?
hold
this.
on.
The what?
It's already
The
gone
reg.
down about 40% from its peak. So I think that
That is business as usual, my
well,
friend. Nothing new
I
here.
don't think it's business as usual now.
It is business as usual.
I
That's
think
pure
the business has
manipulation. That's not
changed
business as
now
usual.
that you
That's
have
not
all
the
these
no.
institutions involved and politics involved. But if Bitcoin is back at 130,000 next year,
Right.
right? My guess is that the investments that I do own will have done even better than that. And so I'll
But here's the thing, Peter. I got a message from you on X, a post. You said don't buy Bitcoin. It's silly to buy it at $3,800.
yeah, I did. Yeah,
Here
that
we
was a
are
long
at
time.
Who's
87,000.
cherry picking
How many
now, guys?
people?
Who's
Why
cherry
did you
picking
post
now?
that? How many people lost money not investing Bitcoin using that advice?
Well, I mean, I think that people that follow my advice will ultimately make
But
money and
they
avoid
lost
huge
thousands
losses.
upon thousands of dollars missing out on it based on your advice. It's not correct, is what I'm saying.
No,
And I'm
well,
and I'm not
yeah, my
anti-gold.
advice to people is don't participate in pyramids or Ponzi schemes
It's not
that
a pyramid and a
eventually,
Ponzi scheme,
yeah,
okay?
you just
No,
don't
it's
It
know
not.
it. You just
absolutely
don't
is.
recognize it. Yeah, that's
Now,
exactly what it
let
is.
me tell you something, Peter. I'm about to go to Dominican Republic in a couple weeks, okay? When I sit down at a restaurant now, there's now two prices on the menu instead of one. There's now
Well,
RD, which is Republica Dominicana, and now there is BTC.
what is there one restaurant that does that?
Try all of them, my friend.
I doubt it. I
Really?
doubt it.
Would you
On that
like me to
lookout
post
for
a
El
post?
Salvador.
You're
Yeah,
full of shit.
yeah. No, I don't think that there's a bunch of restaurants where they're
You
taking
don't
Bitcoin
think.
in the
I don't
Dominican
need to
Republic.
think. I'm going to show you. I will post them and I will tag you in them. No problem.
Yeah, but you know
Hey,
what?
Okay.
They would much rather take tokenized gold. That's a much better medium of
No,
exchange.
Peter. No. When I go
Yeah.
to Guatemala, I lived in Guatemala City for 2 years. Guess where the majority of the restaurants take as a alternate way of paying, and that's BTC. When I go to Lake Atitlan in Guatemala, they now take BTC for property. They take
Why do
BTC
you
for
go to
anything.
Guatemala? Why are you always in Guatemala?
Well, I lived there for 2 years, Peter.
Oh, all right.
So my point being is the intrinsic value and the demand for
Well,
Bitcoin
there
is
is no
going up.
intrinsic value.
There is
Bitcoin has
intrinsic.
no intrinsic
You want me to
value.
run?
No,
You
it
want me to run
doesn't.
it through you? You want me to teach you about intrinsic value and why it's valuable?
No, there is no intrinsic
You're
value
No,
to
not
there's plenty
Bitcoin.
of
teaching us
intrinsic.
about
No,
this about
no, there's plenty of
intrinsic
intrinsic
value.
value,
No,
ton.
you just think there is.
No, I know there is because I can
No,
show
you
you.
believe there is. You're
Really?
delusional.
So if I want to get
Yes.
$1 million, which I have $1 million in my fucking wallet right now, and walk through
Whoopee.
TSA
now you sound a
airport,
little bit buffoon right there,
I
buddy.
don't care.
really?
You
How is that
think
buffoon? Do you
Trying to
understand
flex on
facts?
$1
Yeah,
million,
you don't, you
bro.
don't,
That's not
you don't talk
freaking.
about how much assets you have, buddy. You don't do that. Stop it.
What?
but a million
And they're being disrespectful to the host.
but a
So
million
why don't you
first of
roll
all,
No, there's no
a
disrespect. These are just
million doesn't
facts.
impress me. It's not a lot of money. But you know
Okay,
what?
100 grand. I'm just using it as an example. This
Yeah,
isn't a flex, okay? I'm not in it for ego. I don't give a shit about your ego.
I'm not
You
saying that
sound like it.
Bitcoin has a price. Yeah, Bitcoin is you could sell your Bitcoin for $87,400. I get that. That doesn't mean
But
it
I could
has
take that. I could take
87,000.
that $1 million of value, Peter, and get to Guatemala tonight, right now. Load up on an
No.
airplane. It's in my wallet. It's in my hot
Yeah.
wallet right here. Go through TSA airport, and I've got $1 million in value to Guatemala, which I can unload anywhere
Yeah,
there.
yes, but you
So
don't need to
therefore, there
take
is
it in
intrinsic
Bitcoin.
value there.
Yeah, but there are all kinds of other cryptos you can do the exact same thing with.
We're just talking
There's
about Bitcoin,
28
Peter. Stop.
million
I know, but
cryptos
I'm
have
just
been
saying there's
created.
nothing unique or special about being able to do that with Bitcoin. You
I'm
can do
just
that with
talking about
stable coins.
Bitcoin.
You could take USDT, same thing. You don't need Bitcoin.
Bitcoin's
You
a
could take
slow
Tether.
Why are you
elongated
pivoting? I'm
blockchain.
just talking about Bitcoin, okay?
No, but
Bitcoin's
I'm
a
saying
slow
there's nothing
blockchain.
valuable about it because it's not
That
unique.
is intrinsic value when I'm able
No,
to
it's
transfer
not.
wealth.
No, you're not transferring wealth. You're transferring
Well,
Bitcoin.
how did it get to Guatemala? Did it magically appear in my wallet?
It doesn't go anywhere. It's wherever you want it to be. Bitcoin
That
doesn't
is
move.
intrinsic value because I can
No,
transport it.
no. Just because
You
you
don't
could
live in
sell it doesn't.
reality.
No, just because you could sell it. Look, I could shit in a bag, and if I get somebody to pay me for it, that doesn't mean the bag of shit is worth anything. It just means some idiot bought it from me. So you can get somebody to buy your Bitcoin now. That's great. But the point is, in the future, there may not be people foolish enough to want to buy it. And then the fact that
Based
you
on
can
what? Your
take it around the world
feelings?
doesn't
Based
mean
on
anything.
what? Based on
Huh?
what? Your feelings?
No, based on the fact that it's nothing.
Whose opinion is where's that coming from?
it's coming from
1% of the
reality.
wallets, 1% of the Bitcoin wallets control 90% of the supply. That thing can be manipulated at any point in time. It's had 5 maximum drawdowns greater than 80%. I mean, you tell me this is not a safe haven. That's why you guys refuse to realize the transition from from risk on assets to safe haven assets, and
No,
that's
I
why you guys are
clearly
going to go.
understand both. I'm very
That's
diverse
why you're
myself. I
going
don't
to
need
go down with the
education.
ship.
I don't
Well,
need your
why?
That's
education
why
on
you're
that.
going
Let
down
me
with the
ask
ship
you a
because you guys
question.
don't even
Let
realize
me
it.
ask you a question, Bitcoiner. So
It's Mr.
why?
Tiger to you.
Okay, all right, Mr. Tiger. So when Bitcoin started the year, it had everything going for it. You had a
Sure.
Bitcoin president, you had a strategic reserve, you had Bitcoin legislation, pro legislation, you had Michael Saylor, buying billions and billions. You had all these other copycat Bitcoin treasury companies buying Bitcoin. You had all these ETFs buying Bitcoin. You had nonstop hype, all the financial channels, CNBC, Fox Business, constantly promoting Bitcoin, one guest after another, all the on-air talent. Bitcoin, you got to buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin's great. Bitcoin, you can't lose. Bitcoin's going to the moon. All these influencers, all of this stuff. Yet Bitcoin is down 7% year to date, and it's down 40% from its high in a year where gold and silver have had their best year since the
What Peter,
1970s.
Peter, what I
Why
don't
did this
understand is why do
happen?
you compare Bitcoin to gold is what I don't
No,
understand.
because Bitcoin is marketed as digital gold. I don't compare it. The Bitcoin community compares it. So if Bitcoin is
Exactly.
digital gold, Why did gold go up 70%? Why did silver go up 130% and Bitcoin go down?
But you're cherry picking that time frame
No,
to
I'm
fit that.
talking about this year. I'm not cherry
Right.
picking
And you're
shit.
taking one single year,
So you
Peter.
explain, but you explain this year. Why did this year work like this?
Peter, I can't explain why the market does what the market irrationally does.
Okay,
But you
so
can't
what is?
take a single, Peter, you can't take a single year
Why not?
and then make an argument. You can't because it's cherry picking. You have to
But
zoom out a little bit. Why don't you compare the next 15 years
well,
or
we
the
don't.
previous
We
15?
haven't had the next 15 years yet
No, not next, previous. Why don't you take 15 years and zoom out and make
because
the same argument? You
that's
can't.
also not enough time. 15 years is nothing. Just
Well, that's
because
all
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin's existed, a little over 15 years. You
That's my
can't.
point. We
You're,
don't even
you're
know if
cherry
it will,
picking one
and
year.
it may not exist 15 years from now. That could
That's
be
like me.
it.
That's like me telling you, why don't we do 10-year comparison, Bitcoin versus
Maybe
gold?
Bitcoin's entire lifespan is 20 years. Maybe it's got
Right.
5 years left before it's zero. We don't
But
know.
the performance is phenomenal. Why can you not
No,
admit that?
no, it's not phenomenal anymore.
Why the
It was
hate?
phenomenal.
Why the hate?
I don't.
Bitcoin's not even a tier one asset. I mean,
It's
central banks
nothing.
would have reclassified it as a tier one asset
But
if
let
it
me
were
ask you a
going to be
question.
the next thing.
It's on
At
$2
what
trillion, almost $2 trillion. I
are you
mean,
going to be just as bullish? Let's say Bitcoin ends next year at 50,000.
now I want to
Yeah.
be clear about something, Peter. I am not a maxi, and I don't have all of my fucking money in Bitcoin. Just to be clear.
All right. Watch your language though. Sometimes young people listen to the podcast to this stuff. I got, kids and stuff.
My bad, Mister Peter.
But yeah, I mean, but at what point you want to write off this year as no big deal, zoom out. How many
What
more
I don't
bad
understand is you. I don't understand you. I want to get to you.
No,
Why
no,
do you not
listen,
have
let me
Let
finish
him
this. Let
finish
me
his
finish this
point,
question.
man.
Okay.
How many more bad years does Bitcoin have to have before you stop zooming out to the beginning?
Me personally, too. If it had 2 bad years in a row from here out, I would agree with you,
All
but I
right, well,
don't.
let's see what happens.
And I'm with you, but what I don't understand about you,
All right.
why the hate? Why can you not have some exposure to it?
Because I don't believe in it. I think it's going down. Why should I get exposure
Okay,
to something that I think is
let's
going to
back
lose
out
me money?
another question here. Let's ask a different question. Why can you not have exposure to some crypto?
I don't want any
He
exposure
does.
to it.
He gets free Bitcoin sent by him by people like
Well,
you. So
no,
he
that
absolutely
I
has
didn't ask
there's
you.
exposure to
Shut
it.
hardly
up.
any Bitcoin in my strategic reserve. I got like $5,000 worth. So I mean,
Okay, that's a start. That's a
but
start. What
but
about your Ethereum?
oh, no one gave me any Ethereum. I got a little Solano. I don't have any Ethereum. Nobody
Okay,
sent me any
where's
Ethereum.
your how is your crypto education? I'm just
Oh,
genuinely
I'm
asking.
very educated in crypto. That's
Okay,
why I
so you
don't own
understand
it.
smart contracts.
Huh?
You understand smart
I do.
contracts.
Yes.
You understand a layer one like Ethereum, the significance it holds in our future.
Yeah.
Would
I
you
mean,
agree with that?
I'm going to be launching a token. Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm going to
Okay.
use a lot of different chains. Look,
What token?
I did an ordinal, right? I came out with an ordinal
Okay.
on Bitcoin. You can go and buy the ordinal now. I mean, we sold them all, but it's not there. You can buy the resales on Magic Eden. But the
I got
interesting thing about my ordinal is it's called Golden Triumph because
okay.
it was gold triumphing over Bitcoin. And since I did that ordinal, gold has triumphed over Bitcoin. Gold has gone way up, and Bitcoin has gone way down, priced in gold, since I did that ordinal.
Peter, I got another question for you. Let's say gold goes crazy, right? Do you believe in rebalancing?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, well, if somebody has a portfolio and they have a certain
Yeah,
allocation,
sure.
yeah, I mean, they could lighten up on especially gold mining stocks and stuff. But there's still, as I said earlier in this thing, hey, I got to run. It's already after 6 o'clock. I wanted to stop this thing, but yeah, I mean, I haven't rebalanced anything yet personally because I'm letting it ride. But I still think my mining stocks are really cheap, even though they've gone up a lot this year. I
I
think.
got one quick question before you go. Do you believe that crypto is our future? Is my biggest question to you.
Well, not
Financially, monetarily.
no, not at all. I mean,
Oh my God, Peter, come on.
I think crypto is the past. I mean, if to the extent that to the
No,
extent
Peter, come on,
to
Peter.
the extent that there's a future in it, it's like tokenized gold. It's tokenized real things, not made up
No.
nonsense like Bitcoin. The only thing that the future for Bitcoin is as an example of popular delusions and the madness of
Now,
crowds.
Peter, I'm going to come
I
back to this
think Bitcoin
conversation in a little bit.
I
In a
think
little,
Bitcoin will succeed in knocking tulip bulbs out as the primary
Mm,
example for for this kind of financial
Another
trade.
another 6 months. I want back in this conversation. 6 more
Yeah,
months.
Bitcoin will be a lot lower 6 months from now, most likely.
Don't think so.
All right.
Don't think
Well,
so.
good luck. Anyway, look, on that note, now that it turned into a Bitcoin debate, I got to get going because I got to have my dinner soon. I've been doing this for 4 hours, over 4 hours.
Good luck with your silver and your gold, Peter. Good luck.
Thank you. And I'll be back. I'll be back at work. In second week of January, I'll be back in Puerto Rico. I'll be back at work, doing my thing. But until then, everybody, thanks for participating in my spaces. And if if you're not following me on X, get your friends to follow me. Follow me yourself and have them listen to this 4 hours because it's very educational for people who don't know anything about the stuff that I talked about. Anyway, have a happy New Year, everybody. Very prosperous 2026, and I will be back. So I'm signing off. Take care, everybody.